Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Be Weird broadcast, coming at you live and alive from Montreal, Quebec. How you doing, everybody? How's your weekend treating you? Hope it's been chill. Hope you got some good vibes in your community. Touch base with some good people. Call your mom. Um, I had a nice visit with my own mom. We went skiing. Wow, what a thing! Might not be around forever. So yeah, how you doing? How you doing? We got lots of news to cover. Sorry, I've been taking some time off, just recharging my batteries. I was pretty worn out after hitting the slopes. Otherwise, I would have streamed yesterday. But we got some news lined up. We're gonna find out what we missed. A lot of stuff is going on in Russia and Ukraine in the war, and of course, NATO is absolutely a part of it. Hey, Jeremiah, how's it going? Also, YouTube frogs, I changed the settings, and I want to see how quickly, like how delayed you are now. I changed the settings so that it's ultra low latency, so that I can see your chat messages in real time. I think that might improve the stream. I feel like a lot of YouTubers kind of get stuck in this limbo of the conversation. They're like responding to something that happened like 5 minutes ago. It's 9:15 here. It's 9:15 here. Um, yeah, how's it going, Dan Dufour? Yeah, I'm thinking like if I think there was like a solid 60-second delay. Like it was, and what happens is over time, the delay gets longer and longer and longer and longer. Um, and yeah. Also, I noticed that the YouTube chats were showing up, so maybe I don't need this here. Yeah. Okay. Let's get into it. Let's find out what is happening in the world, starting with, of course, the most important subject, Ukraine. Might do some Elden Ring later. It's just been such a fun game to play. I've been grinding. Haven't gotten very far, but like it's just a lot of fun to play. So we might try that. Although it crashes so often on PC, so it's incredibly unreliable. Let's say very unreliable. Right, just tweeting out, setting up, switching over. Let's go. Okay, near Mike. This is 2 minutes ago, so we're gonna, instead of going from where I was 2 days ago and moving forward, we're just gonna hit the news as it comes and then try to fill in the blanks. Near Mykolaiv, another Russian aircraft down, pilot captured, according to another video. There were reports earlier today of a possible air assault towards the South Ukraine nuclear plant. Still unconfirmed, but lots of helos shot down there. I imagine that means helicopter.
Просто сфоткай, напиши
Ooh.
Тихо, тихо, тихо. Нічого. Боже, Боже, хоч би не наші. Хоч би це було. Інтересно, де вони там висадилися.
Dang.
Просто сфоткай, напиши адмін. Тихо, тихо, тихо. Нічого. Боже, хоч би не наші. Хоч би це було.
Residents of Irpin were evacuated by... Oh, is it in the same thread? Oh. That's the pilot. We should try not to show videos of POWs. So, yeah, we can't really show videos of POWs. I'm just gonna try to keep that out of the loop. This was a video that went viral the other day. And also, just to finish this thread off, residents of Irpin were evacuated by car today after Russian forces shelled the train tracks and damaged 2 train cars. You can hear the fighting in the background. Ooh, boy. You can see the, like, blockades. Oh my god, you have to drive around all these felled trees. Oh my goodness. Holy cow, you can just hear it in the background. Yo, little kids. Oh, there you can see the correct spelling of Kyiv. Yeah, look at this, like, driving. Just have to, like, slalom style.
Я вижу. Давайте на меня. İnanılmaz atışlar yapılıyor. İnanılmaz. Hemen karşıda Rus güçleriyle Ukrayna güçleri çatışıyorlar. Gözümüzün önünde oluyor bunlar. Şu an hemen karşıda inanılmaz. Çok şiddetli. Sesi dinleyin lütfen.
Breaking, just in Nizhnekamsk, wow, Nizhnekamsk, Russia, workers at the Gmont iron chemical plant staged a spontaneous strike because they were not paid part of their wages as a result of the sharp collapse and decline of the ruble after their country attacked Ukraine 10 days ago. This is where things are going to start shifting, is when, like, the internal politics, like, are radically altered by a failing economy. This just happened a few minutes ago. Look at all those people. I mean, why would you work if you're getting paid pennies on the dollar? You get paid the same paycheck, it's now worth nothing. Ooh, that's not good for Russia. Those are like the first fissures in the state's, like, industry. Like, how do I say, like, the industries of the state, or there's fissures starting to form. Yo. Can't show extremely graphic. Summary of Putin's remarks just now. Putin had some remarks. There's a couple, like, interviews I also missed that I wanted to check back up on. I guess there's also this amazing image we'll check after. Summary of Putin's remarks just now. I see people pointing out that he's leaving open his options, but I consider it a step back from the brink, that he's at least backing down a bit and hinting that his victory terms are maybe flexible. A mad tyrant, of course, but we'll see. So this is it. While meeting with women pilots and flight attendants on Saturday, Putin spoke publicly about the war in Ukraine and Russia's financial instability. The gist of the president's remarks: there are no plans to introduce martial law, insofar as martial law is introduced in response to external aggression, and no area of Russia is currently experiencing this situation. Russia's armed forces have destroyed almost all of Ukraine's military infrastructure. Russia hasn't sent a single conscript into battle. All troops involved in combat are professional contract soldiers. There are no plans to deploy either draftees or reservists in battle. Moscow will view any attempt by other countries to establish a no-fly zone over Ukraine as active participation in hostilities. This is a really important point that we're going to come back to, because I understand there was a big vote in, I guess in the UN. I guess NATO took a vote And we'll circle back on this part. The Ukrainian authorities are now executing without trial or investigation anyone who opposes the military operations against Russia. There are neo-Nazis in Russia as well, morons running around with swastikas, end quote, but they're not supported at the state level. The decision to launch the special military operation, i.e. the invasion of Ukraine, was difficult, golly gee. The Russian economy needs, quote, maximum economic freedom for businesses. Good luck. Oh, no, don't say that. Putin supports the idea. Freedom. Putin supports the idea of suspending felony prosecution for economic crimes, especially if the damages are compensated. Suspending felony prosecution for economic crimes. So he's basically saying to his cronies, the state will turn a blind eye. You can do what you got to do to keep the Russian state afloat. All pensions. Oh, that's going to be really bad for the labor class. Oh my God. All pensions and social benefits should be indexed. Oh no. That's devastating for the average Russian. Yikes. Here's Putin commenting on the talk about a no-fly zone over Ukraine. If anybody tries it, he says Russia will view it as participation in the conflict. Doesn't matter which alliances they might belong to. He's talking about NATO, of course. That's interesting how it's only private military companies involved, PMCs. I mean, if we take Putin at his word, there might be some other evidence going on that might contradict that. But, you know, shouldn't show videos of POWs and all that.
Сейчас мы слышим, что нужно сделать
This is him saying the no-fly zone.
На территории Украины. Сделать это невозможно на самой территории Украины. Можно только с территории каких-то соседних государств. Но любое движение в этом направлении будет нами рассматриваться как участие в вооруженном конфликте той страны, с территории которой будут создаваться угрозы для наших военнослужащих. Мы в эту же секунду будем рассматривать их как участниками военного конфликта. И уже все равно, какими там членами они являются.
Some Russian in the morning. Here's the video Putin saying that he has no plans for martial law, explaining that the invasion disaster situation that would demand it is absent today. Okay. So Putin's on TV. That was on AP. Media. Italy seizes property worth $150 million from Russian oligarchs. According to The Guardian, the list includes villas of billionaire Alisher Usmanov and Russian state TV host Vladimir Solovyov, yachts of Russia's richest man Alexei Mordashov and Gennady Timchenko. Yeah. Putin claims that the Ukrainian military infrastructure has been almost entirely destroyed, and the destruction of Ukraine's air defenses is almost complete. And this person adds in that's absolutely false. Hundreds of thousands of households left without gas due to Russia's war. Due to damages, the gas transmission system operator of Ukraine had to shut down 16 gas distribution stations in Kharkiv, Mykolaiv, or is it Mykolaiv? Zaporizhia, Kyiv, Donetsk, and Luhansk oblasts. Yikes. In Melitopol, this video went viral. Citizens are walking towards shooting Russian soldiers, telling them to get the fuck out. No fear. Oh! What the fuck? Bro. Look at this guy. Wait, what? Yo, what the fuck? And people wonder why Ashley Babbitt was shot. Oh my gosh, that was crazy. Oh my goodness. I almost want to watch it again. Russian influencers on TikTok defend the invasion of Ukraine by giving the same exact propaganda speech. I love this shit.
В 2015 году в Донецке установлен мемориал «Аллея ангелов».
Интернет-сети уже давно стали средством информационной войны.
Oh no!
О 10 погибших в Донбассе. Во время войны погибли сотни невинных детей.
Вот уже на протяжении целых 8 лет
Освободительная
Oh
операция
shit.
вынужденная.
Мы не хотим установки новых мемориалов на Донбассе и вернуть детям мирное небо над головой. Мы за мир.
Я
Oh
прошу
my God.
холодный рассудок и вернуть детям мирное небо над головой.
Я не хочу войны, я за мир и...
Bro, caught in 6K. Caught in 10K. Oh my goodness. Translation from Russian. In 2015, even the timing on the delivery is the same. That's just kind of, I don't know if you've seen the other one that was done. This is extremely dangerous for our democracy. The other supercut. This was about the Sinclair Media Broadcasting Group in America, which is a media conglomerate that is like going around buying up local news stations. And essentially because so many people trust their local news station and because so many of them are like losing out to like online media and like Twitter and all this shit, they become very vulnerable to like these vulture capitalists who come in and sort of like disembowel the executive class, like the top tier of administration for a small local radio station, and then just slowly but surely poison the well and just start to just lean on journalists to, you know, have certain segments that need to be covered in certain hours. I think they were called like mandatory or whatever. I remember Last Week Tonight did a really interesting episode on it, but the upshot is that this video went viral a while ago in 2018 and sort of showed the exact same thing that we're seeing with TikTok. So let's watch.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about the trouble and trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
the sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Oops.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Cool. Nice. I should play that like all the time. Just always come back to this. Just keep coming back to it. Just keep hitting that, pushing that button. Yeah, it's a very chilling, if you're a journalist watching that, you're like, oh God, oh, my profession's has been like corrupted. But what's even more curious is just how well equipped TikTok is for pushing propaganda. So the translation says, in 2015, a memorial alley of angels was erected in Donetsk in memory of the children who died in the Donbass during the war. Hundreds of innocent children were killed, and at the moment, the shelling of the residence continues. We do not want to install new memorials and cannot allow the death of innocent children. There's a phrase you don't ever want to hear. Russia wants to stop the 8-year Geno. Lots of bad stuff in there. Russia wants to stop the 8-year bleep in the Donbass and return the peaceful sky over their heads to children. Yikes. Let's watch it again. So yeah, that's propaganda for you. It like taps your emotional veins to be like, children, and don't you care about the children, and they're taking your freedoms.
Стали средством информационной войны.
Она больше 10 погибших в Донбассе. За время войны погибли сотни невинных детей.
Вот уже на протяжении целых 8 лет. Освободительная операция РФ – это вынужденная мера.
Мы не хотим установки, но реал на Донбассе и вернуть детям мирное небо над головой. Мы за мир.
Я прошу сохранить холодный рассудок и вернуть детям мирное небо над головой.
Я не хочу войны, я за мир и...
Scary. Scary, scary, scary, scary, scary. Very bad, not good. Very much bad. Latest poll, 82% of Ukrainians believe their country can prevail in war against Russia. 77% say Ukraine will end up being stronger after victory. Like I said, popular morale is very, very high. That's surprising. More Russians are asking Google how to leave Russia than have done so in 18 years since such data became public. Sheesh. UA Army. Due to precipitous retreat of so-called separatists, Ukraine is counterattacking near Kharkiv. Interesting. Precipitous retreat. Media SBU kills member of Ukrainian negotiations team suspected of treason. According to Ukrainska Pravda sources, the man was killed during arrest attempt. Strong evidence that he was leaking information to Russia. Oh no, now the spies are starting to get it, everybody. Oh god, the spy craft begins. Zelenskyy released a statement to counter Russian propaganda. Yeah, the information war. One of the aspects about like that I'm shocked to see sort of not totally present, or I'm curious where it is like Russia's famous for its cyber operations, its information warfare. It's part of why the sanctions might be very effective in drying up the constant stream of misinformation and disinformation on our social media platforms. And so like videos like this from the head of state to sort of like spread among the people that like, you know, keep up the fight, you know, yada, yada, yada, you know, I haven't given up, all these things are incredibly important for like the information war, the, how do you say, the morale war. And as that other thing mentioned, if there's a precipitous retreat, according to the Ukrainian army, from separatists, then it would be pretty incredible for Ukraine to reclaim Kharkiv, like in week 2. Like, I imagine they would only be losing ground at this point, but for them to regain it is very surprising.
Втік з України, з Києва, з офісу. Ось бачите, я знаходжусь тут, на місці.
I don't think he's shaved since the war started.
Ніхто нікуди не втік.
It's kind of hard to hear.
Працюємо. Ми любимо побігати, але зараз немає часу.
I mean, I don't know if there's any Ukrainian speakers in the chat. Sometimes we do have them. Translation. Everything's in Ukrainian. Every other day, a new report emerges that I have fled somewhere. This is Zelenskyy. From Ukraine, from Kyiv, from my office. But as you can see, I'm right here. Here's Andriy Borisovich as well. Borisovich. Nobody fled anywhere. And so here we are working. We'd love to go on a nice run, but we have no time for cardio right now. That's why we're working. Is that a joke? Is he still memeing in the middle of a war? My guy. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes, death to the runners. Death to the runners? That's an interesting... Is that like threatening his own people who desert? Or is he calling the Russians cowards? Putin says there are no plans to introduce martial law. Martial law is only in case of an external aggression, and the country is not in such a situation now, and hopefully will not be. Lol. I am told that Shell discreetly bought some Russian oil yesterday. One question to Shell. Doesn't Russian oil smell like Ukrainian blood for you? I call on all conscious people around the globe to demand multinational companies to cut all business ties with Russia. I think that's the ambassador to Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yeah, there it is. Ukrainians in Russia-occupied Kherson are resisting against the Russian soldiers with a peaceful demonstration. Seriously, Canadians are like wimps compared to this. I'm ashamed to admit it. I'm ashamed, everybody. Look, this is a good reason to get out into the streets. Whose streets are streets? Aki la rue, anu la rue. I'll start learning some Ukrainian. I mean, there might be a protest today. Yeah, jeez. Why don't I just go to a protest and do an IRL stream, huh? Would that be good? Would that be fun? Russia's central bank has capped the amount of money Russians can send to family and relatives abroad at $5,000 per month. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, that means they're having a liquidity crisis. Aeroflot announces it is suspending all international flights effective March 8th. Can't get out of the country now. Mariupol City Council informed that residents' evacuation was postponed because Russians did not adhere to the regime of silence and continued shelling both Mariupol and its outskirts. Holy shit. At the moment, negotiations are underway with the Russian Federation to establish a regime of silence and establish a safe humanitarian corridor. Oh my god. If Shell can buy Russian oil, then who are the sanctions for? Well, you see, oil and gas gets like this pass. Okay? So like they just don't have to do the thing. They just get the pass. You know, like how in justice systems you have like the rich and the poor? It's like that in international sanctions. You have the oil and gas companies, and you got everybody else. Satellite image of Russian amphibious assault force assembled near Mirny, Crimea. Holy shit, what is this world we're living through? Are you joking me? Oh fuck. 10 ships? 12 ships? Oh my god. That is very dangerous. Wait, let me look. Mirny? Where's Mirny? So there's an assault team gathered here. Oh. So I guess they can come around the Gulf. Maybe even come support the siege of Mykolaiv. I doubt they can get up that river. But they might be able to get up this. Oh my god. Oh jeez. Good thing I played all that Total War. The Russian pilot just shot down had experience in Syria. Here he is pictured next to Assad. Here's that. Oh! I don't know if I can show that. Just because I don't know if that guy ejected in time. You know what I mean? Ukrainian military intel posts this video previously circulating on social media of a plane being shot down above Chernihiv. Reports that claim that Ukrainian forces were able to shoot one down before this video emerged. Guess it's just like a plane going down. Oh yeah, look, it's in a tailspin. Yo. Control of the skies. It's all about the air. The Russians are continuing to bomb us and use artillery. It is crazy. Mariupol Deputy Mayor Orlov told the BBC, there's no ceasefire in Mariupol and there's no ceasefire all along the route. Our civilians are ready to escape, but they cannot escape under shelling. Wow. Heavy fighting plus visible parachutes of the downed Russian jet. Oh yeah, look. Sheesh. This is a little unsettling, man. A little unsettling. Russian woman burn. Russian passports? Wait, is this... This is in Edinburgh? Karma farming. Sorry, bad video. In Russian-occupied Kherson, angry local jumps up on a moving APC, armored personnel carrier, waving the Ukrainian flag as angry protesters look on.
Прям вот в движе. Эти суки что делают? Смотри, бля, что делают. Охуеть. Вот это пиздец, бля.
Jumps on it, waving the Ukrainian flag. What a mad lad. Oh, look at him go.
Смотри, бля, что делает. Охуеть. Вот это пиздец, бля. Вот это пиздец.
What a morale boost. What a victory. Ukrainian Ministry of Defense reports that during the war, 39 enemy aircraft and 40 helicopters were destroyed. Russian state news agencies report the Russian military will observe a ceasefire in 2 areas of Ukraine starting Saturday to allow civilians to evacuate the strategic port of Mariupol in the southeast and the eastern town of Volnovaka. But we're learning that they did not honor that ceasefire agreement. So... not good. Video from Kherson shows Ukrainian protesters blocking Russian forces, including one laying on the road. Shots, likely warning shots, can be heard, yet protesters are undeterred. That's the nation Putin claimed did not exist. Holy shit. Oh! Yeah, there's no way. I feel like I'm gonna get shadow banned by YouTube for all this war content. You know they're Russian because they got the Zeds. Holy shit. That is scary. You've seen this from a different angle? Oh my goodness, this is a scary angle. Oh, they just lean into it. They just lean into it. Excuse me, coming through. Try to invade your country. This is like, this reminds me of like the people who went to protest in Ottawa and were surprised when citizens showed up to block them to get in front of their trucks and say, no, you're not allowed. Get out of here. You're invading our area. Get out. The vast majority of a $350 million military aid package the U.S. approved on February 26th has already reached the Ukraine. Congress to authorize an additional $10 billion. The U.S. sends what it has sent in the past so that Ukrainians don't need new training. The staff of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant remain trapped 10 days after it was captured by Russian forces. What? While they are working in shifts. The staff is, quote, tired mentally and physically, emotionally, end quote, said Yuri Fomichev, mayor of Slavutich. Holy shit. Singapore sanctions Russia in response to its all-out war against Ukraine. Singapore announced sanctions against Russia on March 5th that include 4 banks and an export ban on electronics, computers, and military items. Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant back under Ukrainian control. Holy shit. I can't believe they got that back. Journalist tries to show Russians photos of the Ukraine war. This should be spicy.
Путин ввел в Украину войска, и они сейчас бомбят русскоязычные города, Киев, Харьков. Вот у нас есть несколько кадров оттуда.
Пойдем.
Я
Киев.
за Путина.
Я хочу вам показать несколько...
Я за Путина.
Я поняла.
Даже не буду смотреть фотографии.
Ну вот это вот
Ничего этому не...
русскоязычных
Я
городах,
за Путина.
Харьков, Киев. Нет, ну расскажите о своей позиции.
Я за Путина.
Yikes.
Я за Путина, я во всем за него.
Да, Киев никто не бомбит, я этому не верю.
Вообще, я считаю, что Путин, наверное, умный человек и знает, что делает, поэтому...
Yeah, I think it's like
у
3
меня
to 1
нету
in
какого-то
support.
негатива к этому. Значит, так надо.
Absolutely.
Вот, ну вот это мое
Broad
мнение.
popular
Значит,
support.
мы же ничего, никак повлиять на это все не можем. Мне тоже как бы не нравится вся эта ситуация. Не думайте, что как бы нам это все нравится, потому что я понимаю, что и санкции ведут, и все равно, получается, будет бить по нашим карманам. То есть это и инфляция, и ну какие-то, и безработица та же самая.
Inflation, underemployment.
Значит, ну надо так. Я так вот тут у меня такое мое мнение. Такое, что значит будем терпеть, надо.
Правительство России хочет ухудшить своим действиям жизнь простых граждан. На нас уже наложены санкции, от нас уже отказываются множество стран, с которыми мы сотрудничали, могли бы дальше сотрудничать и продолжать жить, но, к сожалению, этого не получается сделать из-за того, как наш президент и верхушка ведут себя в чужой стране.
Как-то мне не хочется прям это говорить, потому что у нас может за это быть какая-то опасность. Я лучше воздержусь от этого. Я просто за мир и все. Мне не хочется войны.
Превентивный удар.
Saying you don't want war has gotten people arrested if you do it in the wrong spot. Now you're... Oh, I'm a dummy. Especially since I'm not reading it out. I'm sorry. Thanks for that. Should we rewatch it? Did I kind of kill that? Thanks, Trudy. Here, let's rewatch it.
Путин ввел в Украину войска, и они сейчас бомбят русскоязычные города, Киев, Харьков. Вот у нас есть несколько кадров оттуда.
Пойдем.
Я за Путина.
Я хочу вам показать несколько...
Я за Путина.
Я поняла.
Даже не буду смотреть фотографии.
Ну вот это вот
Ничего этому не...
Я городах, Харьков, Киев. Нет, ну расскажите о своей позиции.
Я за Путина. Я за Путина, я во всем за него.
Да, Киев никто не бомбит, я этому не верю.
That's a weird one. Just a full out like, no, you can't make me believe.
Вообще, я считаю, что Путин, наверное, умный человек и знает, что делает, поэтому...
No, thank you, Trudy.
У меня нету какого-то негатива к этому. Значит, так надо. Вот, ну вот это мое мнение. Значит, ну, мы же ничего, никак повлиять на это все не можем.
No impact.
Мне тоже как бы не нравится вся эта ситуация. Не думайте, что как бы нам это все нравится, потому что я понимаю, что и санкции ведут, и все равно, получается, будет бить по нашим карманам. То есть это и инфляция, и ну какие-то, и безработица та же самая.
It's also worth noting, and I think a couple political commentators have made this point, that like in Russia, you have less responsibility over your government's actions when you kind of live in a tyrannical regime where there isn't really a connection between what the people want and like the government. This is increasingly true in America, like that there's like an oligarchical state, like sort of the corporations and government have access to the levers of power, but the average person does not. And that's why like approval ratings for Congress are so low, like almost like below 10% in some places, like it's crazy. And so similarly, like in Russia, which is even less doing worse on the democracy scale than America, when she said earlier, like, what could we do? She's right in that, and we should sympathize with her. But her sort of like justification, like, oh yeah, there's always been sanctions, and this is sort of the cost. I don't know. It's a bit sussy. It's a bit strange.
Ну, значит, ну надо так.
Probably the way it should be.
У меня только мое мнение такое, что значит будем терпеть, надо.
Правительство России хочет ухудшить своим действием жизнь простых граждан. На нас уже наложены санкции, от нас уже отказываются множество стран, с которыми мы сотрудничали, могли бы дальше сотрудничать и продолжать жить. Но, к сожалению, этого не получается сделать из-за того, как наш президент и верхушка ведут себя в чужой стране.
Как-то мне не хочется прям это говорить, потому что у нас может за это быть какая-то опасность. Поэтому я лучше воздержусь от этого. Я просто за мир и все. Мне не хочется войны.
Превентивный удар. Он всю жизнь, да, тысячи жизней. Это правда. Это горько, это больно.
Bitter, painful.
А что вы прикажете делать? Ждать, пока на нас нападут?
Путин такого не мог сделать. Напасть на Украину, тем более.
Invade Ukraine?
Зачем нападать, если там...
There are our people living there. Wow. So this is what I mean. Like, there is like some brotherhood going there. There is some level of camaraderie between the two nations. So absolutely Russia has to kind of prevent his citizens from really understanding the true depravity of this war.
Наши жители живут. Наши все там, Украина, Белоруссия.
Но это же произошло. Почему?
Случилось? Не знаю, по новостям другое говорят. Я не слышу, что Путин ввел войска специально для
I didn't hear that Putin sent troops to start a war.
Это Зеленский все делает.
It's all Zelenskyy.
Американцы.
Зачем он положил 500 человек уже
Putin
своих?
already has 500 of his military killed. What for? We don't know.
Зачем? Не знаем. Да ну его нахрен.
To hell with him. Yo, based babushka. the based babushka. This is crazy. The landing fleet. Oh no. U.S. officials believe Russia's social media ban is, in part, due to what conscripts are posting, as well as wanting to disrupt communication among anti-war protesters. I think Facebook just got kicked out of Russia. Taped a remarkable interview with Yulia Zhitstova, one of the 8,000 Russians who have been detained for anti-war protests. This is going to be good. NPR. Aftermath of the shelling of power plant in Okhtyrka in eastern Ukraine. That's a tongue twister. The power plant was shelled during the night of March 3rd to 4th. The city is without power since. During the night, the mayor of Slavutych near Chernobyl warned that the Ukrainian team at the nuclear plant are exhausted and they've been working for 10 days with no replacement. Yeah, we came across that. It's super fucked up. They're just like kind of trapped there trying to maintain the plant. Yikes. Yikes. Just twisted metal. Broken rubble. Yeah, very, very bad, not good. Let's see here. Taped a remarkable interview. With Yulia Zhitstova, one of the 8,000 Russians who have been detained for anti-war protests. When we reached her near Moscow, she said she would keep speaking up despite the crackdown. And she insisted that we identify her by her full name. She wants future generations to know that Russians stood up, that I was out there, I was protesting, I was against this. If I keep silent, I'm still not safe. 6 minutes?
All right, let's go to Russia now, where ordinary people who oppose what is happening in Ukraine have a simple slogan. No to war.
You're here.
We've just heard about that new Russian law that is forcing journalists to change the way they cover the war, or, as Russia is calling it, the special military operation. But some Russians are still speaking out, still protesting.
From what I have learned at school, when I was a child, we were always taught that Kyiv is the mother of all Russian cities. So it is quite a horrible thing to realize that one day you wake up and your tanks are going to Kyiv.
Yulia Zhivsova lives near Moscow.
Yikes.
She wants to speak out. She told us, use my name, my full name. Yulia has protested before on behalf of jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny. She says at these current anti-war protests, she's seeing people who have not spoken up before. She is also seeing a heavier crackdown.
The problem is that the measures that are being taken by the government are getting tougher and tougher. You can go to jail for real. Like, you might face criminal charges, not some administrative whatever it is.
The Russian independent human rights group OVD Info reports that more than 8,000 protesters have been arrested throughout Russia since war began. Yulia was herself detained a week ago Thursday, the day that Russia invaded Ukraine.
I did not have any posters or anything like that. Usually, if you have a poster, you get arrested right away, even if it is just a blank piece of paper. So what I did, I got 2 Harry Potter books. One is like from Hufflepuff, which is yellow, and another one from Ravenclaw, which is blue. So yellow and blue edition. And I just was reading those 2 books at the Pushkin Square. So it looked like a Ukrainian flag, obviously. So for about an hour, the police did not know what to do with me because it was quite unusual, probably for them. But then, they decided to take me to the police station.
So just to be clear, you were detained because you were there and because you had 2 books in your hands that were blue and yellow, Harry Potter books, but the color of the Ukrainian flag.
Yeah, I was just reading about the Dark Lord ascending, and I think it's quite, funny, if we may call anything funny these days.
Do you believe there are more people in Russia who oppose this war than we may be seeing, than the relatively small size of protests so far might indicate?
Yeah, of course, there are very many people who who are waiting for something to happen and then just to join in. They don't want to get arrested. They don't want to lose their jobs. But on the other hand, there are still very many people who do believe in all the propaganda nonsense. I mean, even my dad is quite pro-Putin nowadays, and he says he's ashamed of me or something like that. When it comes to politics, it's very difficult to talk to him.
Do you worry about speaking critically of Putin and doing so publicly? Do you worry about risk or repercussions for you or your family?
Yes, on one hand, yes, of course. But on the other hand, the situation has changed dramatically over the past few years. So now, unfortunately, you can't say that you are safe if you don't speak out. Unfortunately, now it's kind of a lottery, and you can get detained somewhere near the protests if you're even if you're not participating in them for real. And some stupid laws are working against you, even if you quite pro-Putin. So if I keep silent, I'm still not safe. That's the issue. And more people are realizing it now, that keeping silent doesn't actually help.
There will be many, many Americans listening to you right now. And I'm curious what you want the U.S. And the West to do in this moment. You know, there are massive sanctions that the West is imposing right now on Russia. But you live in Moscow, where sanctions will hurt ordinary Russians, people like you who have nothing to do with the decision to invade. How do you think about that?
I think the main sanctions that, I would gladly support are the sanctions against Putin's friends, about just the sanctions against different people from the government and oligarchs, etc., so whoever rules this whole thing, because I really hope that very soon they might just get annoyed by not being able to use their money abroad, by not being able to go abroad, send their children to, I don't know, Harvard or wherever. And maybe that will make them stop Putin somehow, tell him that he needs to stop. When I go protesting, it's not because I think Putin will look down at me and say, oh, there are...
Like, I thought it was a trope that Russians learned French because they want to be cultured and, like, connected to Europe. I thought that was like a trope.
Say, oh, there are too many people, I'll stop. Well, that's nonsense. We won't have enough people because everybody's too afraid. So it's more like for the future generations, like, yeah, you see, I was out there. I was protesting. I was against this.
It sounds like you're saying this is about hope. It's important for you to do this, to keep hope yourself and for future generations to watch.
Yes, and also it's just about my conscience being clear. Like, yes, I was out, I was protesting, I did what I could. Also, I'm talking to you right now for the very same reason. So it's not because I think that peaceful protests will change anything for real.
We've been speaking with Yulia Zhivtsova. She lives in Moscow. She has been participating in the protests there against the war in Ukraine. Thank you. Stay safe.
What an incredible interview. Sorry, I had to hold my reaction because the idea of taking 2 Harry Potter books to create the Ukrainian flag is so fun. Such a good idea. Also, these maps are really interesting. This looks like we're, I think, Mariupol? Yeah, Mariupol right here is under major siege. This is where there's the humanitarian crisis. They try to create a corridor to get people out, but Russia would not respect the ceasefire, allegedly. Apparently. This looks like, what was it? Is it Kherson? Yeah, Kherson and Mykolaiv. These two are like getting absolutely reamed. Yeah, Kherson's by the river, I guess. And Mykolaiv is a bit further up. Yeah, I know so little about like Ukrainian. But honestly, they barely pushed in. This is looking pretty dangerous, though. It looks like a lot of cities are starting to get encircled. Like, you can hold Kyiv. I mean, even holding Kyiv has been an incredible feat of strength. Some internal news. In response to Putin's threats against reporters in Russia, the Washington Post will remove bylines and datelines from stories produced by a journalist in Russia. Goal is to ensure staff's safety. Been around a while, never seen anything like this. Not good. Oh my goodness. Reports of fighting taking place in streets of Sumy. Residents are asked to stay home. Russia is set to send up to 1,000 more mercenaries into Ukraine as a Western official warns Moscow could bombard cities into submission. Yikes. Not good. Very bad, not good. A rally in support of Ukraine is taking place in Tbilisi, Georgia, where thousands of people are listening to the speech of Ukrainian President Zelenskyy. So that's some more support. People in Kherson, Ukraine, stopping Russian occupiers. I think we might have watched this. Oh, yeah, we watched this. Remember with the gunshots? That's so fucking wild, man. That is so crazy. It's one thing to kill a soldier in combat. It's another thing to kill someone lying down on the asphalt in the rain with your car. Like, I don't know. I don't think people are built for that. You're not here to liberate the Ukrainians. Go home. Yeah. Yeah, no shot. Our AFP team saw massive destruction in Chernihiv today, a day after Russian bombing killed at least 47 people, according to regional authorities. Yo, what the fuck? Yo, those are residential blocks. There's sandbags, I think. A car is totaled. Just trash everywhere, just debris. Oh my goodness. What are they doing? It's just unhinged. Chernihiv. Where is Chernihiv? It's on the border with Belarus. Yeah, I thought Belarus entered in the war on the side of Russia. So it's like the city northeast of Kyiv. Got it. So yeah, it's going to be getting hit hard. Holy shit. Saw a video of Russians in St. Petersburg hopping trains to Finland while the border is still open. They're saying it's one of the last places to cross into in an EU country. Really, Kraus? If you have that, I'd love to see it. I'm particularly interested in that angle, to sort of like the downwind effects from war. There's always sort of like a second and third and fourth effects, and people like max exodus of Russia. Yeah, that's going to be a major problem for their economy. Every gust of wind loosens another pane of glass, another lump of rubble, sending debris crashing into the streets of Chernihiv, scattering surviving civilians as they navigate their devastated city. The industrial town of 300,000 sits across the path chosen by a Russian invading army for its advance on the Ukrainian capital Kyiv, and it has paid a steep price for resisting the assault. Dozens of civilians have been killed in shelling, missile attacks, and air raids, and now those remaining live among ruins and craters, many of them seeking to escape. Sergei, a thick-set man with a shaved bullet of a head and dark stubble, grips a sack of cat litter like a shield as he slaloms between the wreckage, his head bowed. What a crazy sentence. Corpses. Quote, there were corpses all over the ground, he told AFP as air raid sirens wailed once more. They were queuing here for the pharmacy that's just there, and they're all dead. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, you could do it, loud tyrant youth. You can talk rationality into people, I think. I think that happens sometimes. Okay, we're going to read this after. We're doing some deep dives on Chernihiv. This is a really, really good write-up from Hindustan Times. As you know, everyone loves Hindustan Times. But this person's a good writer. Who is the writer? It just says AFP. Oh, I can't find the author. Odd. Chernihiv controlling, it might be the editorial staff. At Chernihiv, controlling the northeast route towards Kyiv from the Belarus border was always going to be a target of Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. But on the 8th day of the operation, encountering stiffer than expected resistance, Moscow decided it was no longer a question of taking the town, but of destroying it. On Thursday, Russian jets roared over the city and unleashed a hail of what local witnesses described as cluster munitions, spiraling through the air with mini fixed rotors like sycamore seeds. Bro, oh my God. Don't write that well. I don't like it when you're that descriptive. Jesus. They hit a residential district of 8-story blocks clustered around a clinic and a school building converted into a rear base for resting Ukrainian soldiers. Secret administration. According to the Interior Ministry, at least 47 civilians were killed in the first strike, and detonations could still be heard as shelling continued Friday. Quote, but what do these bastards want of us? Demanded 48-year-old survivor Serhiy Bludny as the dull Serhiy Bludny, maybe, as the dull throb of jets once more filled the air. Many, perhaps most, of the population had decided not to wait to find out the answer to his question. On Friday morning, long convoys of civilians in a disciplined line snaked south towards Kyiv, with the warning sign, children, plastered in their windows. But Petro Bahatyuk, 65, had not managed to gather together his family to make a move. Quote, my heart is in pieces. My children haven't been able to leave. My grandchildren are still here, and I've come looking for them, he said. Yo. In a secret location, for fear of becoming Russia's next target, local officials are trying to organize the survival of those cut off in the city. And that's why it's called secret administration, this section. Quote, today we're trying to make camouflage material for our guys. The priority is to stay hidden, Deputy Mayor Regina Gusak told AFP in the hideaway. 2 more makeshift bases have already been destroyed, and now the administrators are stockpiling tinned food, warm clothes for children, and mattress protectors for those that wet the bed through fear. I don't know, but that's the one that got me. That's intense. That's something you get through print journalism. You just don't get through a video. Holy fuck. Sorry, excuse my language. Red Cross workers are also around running out when a report comes in of a house ablaze. And I've definitely heard of some firefighters losing their lives. But Ukrainian troops are invisible. Chernihiv is left to its own defenses, supported more than protected by a handful of armed civilian volunteers in Ukraine's territorial units. Denis Urokaz, a 25-year-old electrician in a keffiyeh-style scarf, cruises around the town with a friend in his car, blasting out techno to drown out the sounds of war. What's keffiyeh? Okay, yeah, of course. The rockets are day and night, he said, but we'll fight and help out while we can. In the back of his car are a teddy bear, some basic first aid gear, and a rocket launcher. The bravery of Chernihiv achieved viral fame last week when a social media post showed determined but unarmed civilians shooing off a tank that approached the town. Next section, the bridge must hold. But that now seems like another war. By Friday afternoon, the remaining inhabitants were trapped in a cauldron of fear. To the north, the west, and the east, Russian tanks are in the fields and woods, firing on anything that moves, AFP journalists confirmed. As dusk fell, the last route out to the south, an ancient bridge over a muddy river, became a target. The fast-moving silhouette of a Sukhoi attack jet was spotted, flying low and fast. As the first bomb exploded tens of meters away from a crowd waiting to leave, they threw themselves onto the tarmac, children screaming in flight. Quote, we'll die if we stay here, a woman screamed. Dumbfounded and shaking, a Ukrainian police officer shouted for the escapees to get in their cars and drive before the plane's next pass. No one knew if the bridge would hold. No one knew whether it would be hit. But they drove. Did they have a fucking reporter there? Holy shit. Where are these sentences coming from? This is crazy reporting. Oh my god, they were there. Oh my god. What? Bro. That's desperation. Hiding under the bridge. You're like stuck. Everyone's so peaceful though. This is an incredibly desperate situation and everyone's pretty calm and collected, I've got to say. A lot of people with pets, kids. Wow. Some maybe armed forces or civilian forces. It's hard to say. I mean, that's an AK. Holy cow. That was a crazy article. So wait. Chernihiv is right here. So yeah, the northeast section. And this is like one of the planes that got destroyed. We watched that earlier. Just like tailspin. It's right at the beginning. Let's see him ejecting. Everyone lives in that clip. Pentagon, Russia has fired more than 500 missiles in the week since its full-scale invasion of Ukraine began. Russia is launching all different types of missiles at a rate of about 24 per day, a Pentagon official said. As of March the 3rd, more than 1.2 million refugees have left Ukraine since Russia's full-scale invasion, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees reports. Amazing video from inside the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Stop firing at the nuclear facility. You are endangering the safety of the entire world. This is like, we're going to dig into this because this is psychotic. I haven't seen this yet. Immediately stop firing. You're endangering the safety of the entire world. The operation of a crucial part of Zaporizhzhia's plant could be damaged. We will not be able to restore it. God. You are endangering the safety of the entire world. Attention, stop firing at the nuclear facility. Yo. Just come on. These are Russian designed plants. So there are Russian scientists, engineers, technicians, and managers who do not know how these plants operate. Oh God, what is happening? President Zelenskyy speaking to the demonstrators in Prague. Yeah, this is a massive demonstration. Okay, so we're moving on. I think I found this streamed 20. Oh, this could be the wrong one. This looks Yahoo News. Yahoo News is reliable, right?
And this first minute, I would like to dedicate to the minute of silence
13,000
to those who have fallen in the fight for their country, to our soldiers, to those who served in the fire crews, those who are working as pilots, those who are making heroic deeds in different areas protecting their country and have given their lives away for this. Let us commemorate their souls and rest in peace.
Другу хвилину свого виступу я хочу надати також мовчанню. Мовчанню на честь наших цивільних, дорослих і дітей, десятків і сотень тих, хто віддав своє життя, але не знав про це. Віддав життя і отримав вічний спокій.
My second minute, I would like to dedicate to the commemoration of our citizens, of our civil population, those people, adults and children,
who are all showing like incredible resolve, like honestly.
Dozens and hundreds of them who have died without knowing so, sacrificing their lives for the independence of our country.
Прошу вшанувати мовчанням їх пам'ять.
Let us commemorate them with silence.
Oh, no.
Дякую.
Thank you.
А дайте хвилину. Я хочу віддати вам, народи Європи. Не мовчіть. Виходьте на вулиці. Підтримуйте Україну. Ми прагнемо цього. Підтримуйте нашу свободу, бо це перемога. Перемога не тільки над російськими військовими, це перемога світла над темрявою, це перемога добра над злом, перемога свободи над тим, що відбувається сьогодні у нас на території України. Не мовчіть, підтримуйте Україну, бо якщо Україна не витримає вся Європа. Якщо Україна паде, паде вся Європа.
And this third minute I would like to dedicate to you, to the people of Europe. I would like to call upon you not to be silent. I would like you to come out on the streets and support Ukraine, support our efforts and support our fight. Because if Ukraine will not stand, Europe will not stand. If we will fall, you will fall. So please don't be silent. Do not turn the blind eye on this. Come out and support Ukraine as much as you can.
Like a direct appeal to European nations, but he must know that like NATO can't get involved, right?
А я впевнений в нашому народі. Я впевнений в вас. Тож, якщо ми переможемо, то це дійсно буде велика перемога демократії, цінності, перемога свободи. Це тоді хвилини мовчання перетворяться в роки розсуду. Європа, будь такою ж міцною, як народ України. Слава Україні!
And if we win, and I'm sure we win, this will be the victory for the whole democratic world. This will be the victory of our freedom. This will be the victory of light over darkness, of freedom over slavery. And if we win, we will become as blossoming as Europe, and Europe will be flourishing more than ever after this magnificent victory. Glory to Ukraine. Slava Ukraini.
Вільнюс, Франкфурт, Тбілісі, Братислава, Прага, Ліон, Париж. Кожен з вас сьогодні українець. Дякую.
Oh, that's actually coming from here? I guess it's from the
Frankfurt,
room he's in.
Prague, Bratislava,
Prague?
Lyon, Paris, Tbilisi, Vilnius. All of you today are Ukrainians, and thank you for this.
The host has asked you to start your video. Oh, jeez. Whoa. That is... Okay, all right. Loud cheering. There's a couple interesting pieces from Canadian news, of all sources. The National is usually pretty solid. How Ukraine is fighting back against Russia's invasion.
Welcome back. As things intensify on the ground and civilians continue to fight back in Ukraine.
A very interesting war where if NATO intervenes, it could escalate to a direct conflict with Russia. So Zelenskyy is calling for mercenary support. Yeah, and I've heard like a lot of people have like started to come in, and you could see that reflected in like how Russia's trying to say like anything now constitutes its red line, and NATO's like holding firm to its red line, which has been firmly established and clear, and sort of validates Russia's strategy of waging war against Ukraine right before it gets to join NATO and get that sweet umbrella protection, or the Article 5. So yeah, it is interesting in that way where the information war might end up being the how do you say, like the factor that really shifts the balance, because Ukraine's going to have is absolutely the underdog, is fighting a huge bear, but it's going to have a constant influx of support from surrounding countries. And it's like Russia's goal to try to like siege and close that off, because once that gets closed off, the people streaming in from outside countries won't be organized enough to like break through any particular siege or blockades. So Ukraine really has to make sure it maintains that channel, that influx of volunteers, of support, of humanitarian aid, all these things. But let's see what CBC says on it. Actual journalists who have, opinions informed by facts, not, random shit I found online.
Ukraine. Some are wondering what Russia's strategy is and what could happen next. Russia has made significant advances since last week in the north and...
Notice the spelling is all like based on the Ukrainian Kyiv is very particular, and and if you notice, it's pronounced Kyiv. That's how the Ukrainians pronounce it, compared to Kiev, which is apparently Russian. So it's like a little bit of a political choice going on with that spelling there.
Southeast, but it has not been the rapid takeover that some had predicted, and Russian forces have not yet taken the capital. We're joined now by Walter Dorn, Professor of Defense Studies at the Royal Military College of Canada and the Canadian Forces College. Walter, thanks for joining us.
Lol.
Thank you.
As you know, a lot of people have been surprised by how slow.
Imagine like Canadians knowing much about war. We suck at it.
Slowly, the Russian invasion has moved, even more than a week later. What's gone wrong for the Russians?
I think the Russians miscalculated. They miscalculated the resistance of the Ukrainians, the determination of the Ukrainian army to fight, the determination of the Ukrainian people to support the military and indeed to fight themselves. I think that the Russians also underestimated the powerful effects of sanctions. And so it's causing Russia to have some second thoughts. And I think that that's a really good measure to have second thoughts at this point for Russia.
We're getting a lot of questions from viewers about a no-fly zone. The Ukrainians would like one established. NATO has refused to do that. Why not use the air power of NATO countries to keep the Russians out of Ukrainian skies?
NATO managed during the entire Cold War to avoid direct confrontation with Russia. And now if NATO were to use its air power and shoot down Russian planes, Russia would consider that an act of war and then be in a war with the nation that shot down the planes or the alliance. And that could escalate. I mean, we have the possibility that under such a scenario, that it could escalate all the way to the unthinkable, that is nuclear war. So NATO has to be very careful not to directly engage with Russia in a military confrontation. And I think it's very wise that NATO to do indirect support for Ukraine, but not directly engage in a fight.
Yeah, look, there's your comment, Technomica. That's pretty much what he's saying. Sounds like you got in there first.
With Russia.
And so speaking of that indirect support, that includes aid, and that includes lethal weaponry from allied countries, including Canada. Do you think Ukraine is getting what it needs?
I think it needs a lot more, but the weapons are flowing in. The surface-to-air missiles and anti-tank missiles are coming in. These are really potent weapons to be able to deal with an invasion force from Russia. So I think they're getting support, but they can certainly use more on the humanitarian side and on the arms side.
I'm seeing some dire predictions about what might happen over the next few days, that we may be entering a particularly dark period of this war. What's your view?
I think that it's can get very dark. Russia has an unused capacity now, dozens of kilometers of convoys that are waiting, for instance, for an attack on Kyiv. It could be that they would surround it and do siege warfare with shelling.
Look at these images.
All kinds of damage inside Kyiv that could cause major civilian.
I haven't seen stuff like this since like Second World War footage and like, I don't know, I guess war in Georgia maybe?
Casualties. So the possibility of increasing dire humanitarian situation is very real. And in cities like Mariupol, it's already happening. The siege is happening, and the Ukrainians are not able to get the resources, both the military and the humanitarian, the actual means to sustain their lives from the outside. So there's really a need for humanitarian assistance as well as military assistance.
And it appears we're seeing Russian attacks on civilians. Do you think that's intentional? And if it is, why?
I think Russia is getting extra desperate. They didn't expect this resistance from the Ukrainian population and the Ukrainian military. And so they are being looser with the rules of engagement. And they're, in some cases, deliberately targeting facilities. There's examples where it can't be just collateral damage. There are missiles into universities. There are attacks on press cars. There are so many examples of
We're about to watch something pretty intense, actually.
Disrespect for the rules of war, that we're seeing a Russia that's violating international law and the rules of warfare.
Walter Doran, thank you very much.
That was a really interesting interview. Wow, I'm glad we took the time. Let me just see here. This is the mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, who was pictured early on like setting up on barricades. He's I think former heavyweight champion, defended the belt twice or something crazy. Heavyweight boxing,
З блокпостів хлопці групляються, готуються дати відсіч всім тим, хто приходить на нашу землю.
Looks like they're setting up hedgehogs.
Все нормально, дух бойовий, нас не зламати.
Yeah, that's really effective. You set up some hedgehogs. You turn all the rubble in your city into useful defense. He's worth hundreds of millions. He can live the dream life anywhere in the world. Yet he chooses to do this to fight against overwhelming odds and perhaps lay down his life. Yo. National Ubreak. I'm looking for a translation. No translation. Damn. Okay. This is other big news. Zelenskyy slams NATO over rejection of no-fly zone. Ukraine's president has attacked NATO leaders over their refusal to implement a no-fly zone around the country. In a fiery speech. I guess we missed that speech. That's what I guess I'm looking for. Yeah. Zelenskyy interview. I guess it was a speech, because that must have been what that protest was about. Zelenskyy attacks NATO. Oh shit. I mean, gosh. Are you actually going to show it?
Для декого, здається, мені
Yeah, I want to see the full address. Zelenskyy. Man, my French and English are mixing. Every time I try to write address. Okay, Al Jazeera has a report, but it's 24 minutes. Address in full, it's 36 seconds. DW's been a good source. Here we go. Thank you, DW. Oh, we did watch this. Yeah, it was just kind of really long and slow.
Soldier greeting, this army greeting, is something that ordinary people starting to use in their day-to-day language when greeting each other, because we are protecting our country from Russian invasion, from the Russian attack. We are protecting our homes and our land from the full-fledged and out Russian war and Russian aggression.
Сьогодні ми всі військові, всі ми захищаємо нашу державу. Кожний на своєму дуже важливому місці. Військові з автоматами на передовій, лікарі зі скальпелем.
Okay, we did actually watch that. I guess I just missed the part where he attacks NATO. It's no big surprise though. It's not like he can play nice with it, with NATO. NATO has deliberately decided not to cover the skies over Ukraine. Quote, we believe that NATO countries have created a narrative that closing the skies over Ukraine would provoke Russia's direct aggression against NATO. This is the self-hypnosis of those who are weak, insecure inside, despite the fact they possess weapons many times stronger than we have. Woo! You gave the green light for further bombing of Ukrainian towns and villages, refusing to make a no-fly zone. You could have closed the sky. So that's not good. This just happened moments ago. This is from Pravda again. Putin threatens Ukraine with loss of statehood. Roman Petrenko. President Putin stated that if Ukraine continues to behave like this, it will endanger the future of its statehood. Source, Putin's address broadcasted on the Russia 24 TV channel. According to Putin, quote, The current government in Kyiv has to realize that if they continue to behave like this, they will endanger the future of Ukraine's statehood. And if this happens, it will be entirely their responsibility. End quote. Sounds like the words of an abuser, IMO. I don't know. Like, you made me do this to you. Details. Putin also said that there are attempts to, quote, sow disarray among the Russian society. Ooh, that's a big slip up. Putin noted that the consequences of NATO's potential conflict with Russia are clear to everyone. Russian soldiers fighting this war, according to the president, are, quote, fighting for the future. Putin also stated that the Western sanctions against Russia, quote, appear similar to a declaration of war, but this has not yet happened. Yikes. Is he actually going to try to, like, justify? Yeah, here's the comments. Maybe we just missed it at the beginning. Or Yahoo just clipped it poorly. So yeah, not good. A Ukrainian soldier and a militiaman help a fleeing family crossing the Irpin River in the outskirts of Kyiv. Look at this picture. I'm going to blow it up. Nice and big. Wow. The soldier's carrying a kid. And she's getting what little rest she can. And they must be moving fast because it's blurry. Soldier doesn't have his helmet on. Maybe because he's really hot from carrying. Wow. Ooh, crazy. Yeah, and then ooh, Greek convoy from Mariupol arrived safely at Moldovan border. Breaking news. Russian customs officials said they had detained a star American basketball player after finding hashish oil in her luggage at an airport near Moscow. The Russian news agency TASS has identified the player. Oh my God. Just let people get high. What's the problem? In Kharkiv Oblast, Ukrainian forces managed to seize around 30 units. Oh. Sorry, that's loud. That's loud. They seized a bunch of Russian equipment. Look at all this stuff. Hundreds of millions of dollars. And you know it's Russian because look at those hats. Flat tires, blown up.
Вони кинули?
Да, кинули техніку втікаючи під нашими обстрілами.
Скільки одиниць техніки?
Totally abandoned.
Близько 30 одиниць. Танки, МТЛБ, КАМАЗи.
That looked like a bullet hole, actually. Guy trying to fix the tank.
Цей танк можна теоретично взяти на українське озброєння?
Звичайно. Т-80 БВМ. Остання модифікація російських танків Т-80. Тепловізійним прицілом.
Translators in the chat? No? Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I think like a Robert Evans was commenting on how much like hardware had just been left. So many tanks just left behind. Another of Putin's quasi-republics, Transnistria in Moldova, asks for, quote, recognition of independence, end quote, because of Moldova's bid to join the EU. Now, everybody's trying to get their piece of the pie. No shot. Oh my God, really? Oh no. Oh, this is going to be good. Oh, where'd it go? Yes. If you were wondering about whether the Russians really influence our social media, compare the list of top Facebook posts from a few weeks ago to this week when Russia couldn't access its foreign cash reserves. Rather telling, I've been following the Facebook's top 10, but finally someone put like them side by side. So number 1, Sean Hannity. Number 2, Franklin Graham. I don't know who that is. Number 3, Sean Hannity. 4, Ben Shabibo. 5, Ben Shabibo. 6, Dan Bongino. 7, Dan Bongino. 8, I Need a Word. I don't know who that is. 9, Ben Shabibo again. And then 10, CNN. Now, who is it? This. 1, Occupy Democrats. 2. Historias Realis. No idea what that is. 3. Occupy Democrats again. 4. The Federalist. 5. Twice. 6. Elizabeth Warren. 7. Ben Shabibo. 8. NPR. 9. New York Times. 10. All K-pop. Like, if Historias Realis is like neutral, Occupy Democrats having 2 of the top spots is pretty sussy, but that might just be because they're trying to counter. They're like one of the most organized leftist like think tanks. Billy Graham's son, an evangelical preacher, really? Franklin Graham? Oh no! And Historias Realis. What is that? It's Spanish. No, really? I mean, that looks kind of Spanish. Oh, it's on Facebook anyways. I'm in the wrong spot. But yeah, this is much more diverse and very left-leaning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minimum. At least half of it. And then almost entirely right-wing. Oh, I knew it! I knew the Russians were all up in our shit. Russian helicopter shot down in Odessa. Twice is a Japanese pop group? Ah. I see. Solta. Or there is it, Solka. He survived. Everyone survived in these photos. Yikes. What does the Z stand for? That's a good question. Z is the new swastika. Oh boy. Okay. All right. Kherson's mayor Ihor Kolikiev tells CNN the people of Kherson are unarmed. We don't have more weapons to resist, to put up an armed resistance. We don't have the army in the city. The army has been defeated. The Ukrainian army had to retreat, so there are no arms. Natasha Bertrand, very, very highly regarded source in my books. I will always trust Natasha Bertrand. She has some of the best coverage I've seen, like, for years. Oh, and she's CNN now? Oh, damn. If countries from NATO can't intervene, who could help the Ukraine? I think someone pointed out earlier, it might have been Technomika, that, like, it's going to be mercenary forces. It's going to be foreign nationals. People from Canada, people from Europe, people from America, just going over. We've seen a couple of these stories, like 18-year-olds, like 30-year-olds, like 50-year-olds, all sorts of different folk traveling all the way to Poland to cross the border to go help war efforts in Ukraine. Putin said today that he would consider countries imposing a no-fly zone over Ukraine as participating in the conflict. Yeah. If you have control of the skies, you just bomb the ground forces into submission. This is why, for Zelenskyy, it is... Yeah, I can see him being actually legitimately outraged instead of just, like, faking it. Agonizing scenes of civilians trying to evacuate this AM. These people have been under bombardment for 7 straight days and are only just leaving their homes. And they're leaving them with the knowledge that they might not be able to go back to them. This is crazy. This is, I think this is the same bridge crossing that we saw reported from, I can't remember the news source. It was that Hindu Times or something. Like, it was an Asian news source. Great write-up, though. And this bridge was concerning because it had been bombed. And so when you cross it, you don't know if you're going to be crossing when the planes come back over for another pass.
Many Ukrainians have. It takes a lot before they're willing to leave their homes. These people...
Also, like and subscribe and follow and do all the things that support the channel. If you on Twitch and you write, let's see if it works. Yeah, if you do exclamation point socials, you can see all the stuff that you can follow. Go check me out.
Been under bombardment for 7 straight days and are only just leaving their homes, and they're leaving them reluctantly, and they're leaving them with the knowledge that they might not be able to go back to them.
What do you even have for supplies at that point
and
after a
you can
week?
see many of these people are elderly. Можно вам помочь?
Is she gonna help him?
Можно вам помочь? Вот там, вот там, вот там, вот там.
Get out of my shot. Out of my shot, she says.
Можно вам помочь?
Oh gosh, oh no.
See, them people are so exhausted, they can barely walk. They're having to climb this sort of twisted metal. Many of them, as you can see, are elderly. They're visibly distressed.
Yikes.
It's just an awful, awful scene. And these people are the lucky ones. Можно вам помочь? Можно вам помочь?
She just said they were the lucky
Мне
ones.
очень жарко.
Sorry, Twice is Korean. I saw them on TV in Japan, so I just assumed they were Japanese. Okay, thanks for that, Techno.
Можно вам помочь? Давайте мне вот.
It would make sense that they're Korean. I mean,
Just gonna help her carry
K-pop
this bag
is
a second. Excuse me, John.
popping off.
While we try to.
CNN This is such a CNN headline. CNN at site of destruction in Kyiv as Russians close in. They get the word CNN and destruction. It's like the first 5 words. Jesus Christ.
Вот там, вот там. Ничего страшного, ничего страшного. Как вас зовут?
Yikes. A very
So
bleak situation.
people are obviously incredibly affected
She's got
by the situation.
Apple
They're
AirPods.
frightened.
Stop. The fuck is happening?
They're exhausted. They're on edge. They've got their pets. They've grabbed whatever they can. And you're right, John. You know, you asked me before about them going to the city. A lot of these people have no idea where they're going to go once they cross this bridge. They know that they're in relative safety once they do it.
That's all it's
But
about.
they don't have any idea where they're going to go. They don't have any idea where they're going to sleep tonight. They don't have any idea when they can get all their belongings from back home.
People are dying,
You're still
Clarissa.
hearing the
Jesus
steady
Christ.
thud of artillery in the distance. And the fear is, John, it's just going to keep getting closer.
Yeah, it's the artillery, but if you don't have control over the skies, Breaking: the governor of the Donetsk region, Pavlo Kirilenko, has accused Russia of breaching a ceasefire that was only just agreed upon. Quote, due to the fact that the Russians continue shelling of Mariupol, the evacuation of the population has been postponed. Yeah, we read across that directly. News: Russia is poised to deploy up to 1,000 more mercenaries. The mercenary forces, meanwhile, would be brought in to fortify the flagging Russian units, the U.S. official said. U.S. believes the mercenaries already in Ukraine have, quote, performed poorly. It's a fucking understatement. And that as many as 200 such mercenaries have already been killed in the war? Holy shit. Yeah, of course CNN scooped up Natasha Bertrand. Dang, she's such a good reporter. We've seen other shots of this. Yeah. Oh my god, you guys. What the fuck? Oh, there's what's live Kharkov? This morning, Russian missile strike hit private residences in Bila Tserkva, Kyiv region. This is how NATO in action looks like. I mean, what's NATO to do? They're not going to get into it. They're just not. International Paralympic Committee says it has asked China's state broadcaster to explain the apparent censorship of its president's forceful anti-war speech at the opening of the Beijing Winter. Oh my god. Why did you censor the anti-war speech, China? Why did you do it? Green Corridor is not green with Russians around. They were hitting precisely the evacuation points where civilians gathered to leave, Mariupol official said. Again, they attacked evacuation points. Yo, fucking war crimes. What the fuck, Russia? What the fuck, Russia? Oh, and people are in the chat. Everyone does this. America worse. America worse. Jesus. It's like there's nowhere you look. Yikes. What's a yikes for me, dog? Okay, moving on. I'm going to clear out some of these We saw that. Hindustan Times. What a crazy good write-up. This map was really interesting. So was this one. The NPR interview. What a the two Harry Potter books to make it look like the flag of Ukraine. It's so fucking brilliant. And this we'll watch again just because it's insane. It's just pure. Woo! Mad lad energy. Look at this guy go. Come on. Yo, what? What? He says. Oh my god. How do you say the word what in Ukrainian? Is there? Yeah, there is. Nice.
Що?
Що? Of course.
Що?
Що? Oh God, Jesus Christ. War in Ukraine. The Russians leaving Russia for Finland. At Valima, how do you pronounce that? Valima, of Finland's border crossing with Russia, 120 miles east of Helsinki, buses and cars stop for passport and customs checks. These aren't Ukrainians, they're Russians. And although the flow isn't heavy, it is constant. Some people are anxious to get out of Russia because there has been a persistent rumor that Putin's government might soon introduce martial law. He definitely said he wouldn't, to deal with demonstrations against the invasion of Ukraine. You said that correct? Finnish is easy to read. You just actually do pronounce every piece. Va'alima. With flights to Europe halted, the only way out of the country is by car, crossing this border, or by train. We spoke to one young Russian woman who was leaving for the West, one of the lucky ones who had an EU visa before the sanctions were announced. She was in despair at what has been happening. Quote, "People in Ukraine are our people, our family," she said. "We shouldn't be killing them." Would she think of going back, I asked. "Not while our dreadful government is there. It is so, so sad," end quote. She said most Russians don't want this war, but they risk going to jail if they try to stand up to Putin. In Finland, there's immense sympathy for people like her, just as there is for Ukraine and its inhabitants. This sympathy and the fear that Russia might lash out at other neighbors, such as Finland itself, is changing attitudes to Finland's traditional leanings towards neutrality. According to the latest opinion polls, a growing majority of Finns believe that it's time for their country to join NATO and access the protection. There's the words, join NATO and access the protection that membership of the alliance will bring. So now, like NATO, it has been made crystal clear in every European nation's mind that NATO is safe and not NATO is not safe. And maybe that's, what Putin wants. I don't know. Yeah, furious Zelenskyy tears into NATO. Quote, "All the people who will die starting from this day will also die because of you, because of your weakness, because of your disunity, a furious Zelenskyy said. Quote, "Is this the NATO we wanted? Is this the alliance you were building? You will not be able to buy us off with liters of fuel for liters of our blood, shed for our common Europe, for our common freedom, for our common future." Maybe we do gotta watch this. If Ukraine joins NATO, that means direct conflict. I don't think they can join NATO. I think there's like a clause that prevents them from joining. Like NATO is like, we can't consider membership status of nations that are in conflict. And so Russia sent in the little green men to take over Crimea in order to arrest the process of NATO membership for Ukraine. And now has escalated it into a full blown out war, basically calling NATO's bluff, like saying like, oh, okay, so, or not calling NATO's bluff, but more like, just exploiting the loophole. Like any good hacker, there's a system of rules, and you just use the rules against the people who created them. Well, if NATO only applies to NATO membership countries, then we better make sure that Ukraine doesn't join NATO, and we better make sure we own the political leadership there, whether it's a puppet president or if we just full on just annex the place, the country, then yeah, it's ours, and NATO can't do anything but sort of stick to its side of the red line.
Країни сили, країни свободи, народу абсолютного морального лідерства. Ми витримали вже 9
9 days of darkness. Jesus. 9 days of evil.
3 рази більше, ніж темрява і зло розраховували.
3 times more than darkness and evil expected?
Як уміємо у моменти найвищої небезпеки. Відповіли героїзмом, солідарністю, взаємодопомогою. Ми відповіли по-нашому, по-українськи. Так що історія Європи запам'ятає це назавжди. Говоритиме про це дітям, покаже онукам.
The annals of history.
Увесь континент знатиме місто Харків,
Харків,
Чернігів, місто Суми, місто
Волноваха,
Маріуполь, місто Миколаїв та
Mykolaev. I'm just gonna get my pronunciations right.
Знатиме місто Харків,
Харків,
місто
Чернігів,
місто Суми, місто
Суми,
Волноваха, місто Маріуполь, місто Миколаїв та багато інших наших прекрасних міст, живих міст, які витримали найстрашнішу навалу з часів Другої світової війни.
Yeah, honestly, like the pictures of flaming tanks and everything, it feels like Second World War footage.
Я говорю це спеціально як доконаний факт. Витримали, незалежно від того, яка ситуація цієї хвилини. Стратегічно усе зрозуміло. Українці єдині від Ужгорода до Харкова. Стратегічно усе зрозуміло. Українці єдині від Ужгорода до Харкова, від Києва до Херсону. Українці ганяють ворога під Києвом, б'ють за Охтирку, карають за Гостомель, помстяться за Херсон, наш Херсон, український Херсон, який сьогодні намагалися принизити, але не вийшло, не дали. Українці показали себе, не дали себе розіграти у цинічній виставі. З подачкою замість допомоги, з пропагандою замість щирості. Російські пропагандисти думали про наших людей як про себе, а побачили, що херсонці горді і поважають себе, поважають Україну, поважають. Я розумію, наскільки складне рішення, коли в окупації виходять проти озброєних ворогів. Я відчуваю, наскільки це ризиковано, але я бачу, як наші люди відмовляються грати за правилами окупантів, як наші люди залишаються українцями, як наші люди залишаються з нашою державою, навіть тимчасово опинившись у темряві. Якщо у російських політиків ще залишились очі, вони зможуть побачити, що таке Україна, що таке наша свобода. Окупанти думали, що можуть відключити українців від телебачення, відключити наш зв'язок, можуть відібрати продукти харчування, можуть відключити електроенергію, тепло. Вони думали, що це змусить українців підкоритися. Але навіть якщо ви позбавите нас кисню, ми вдихнемо на повні груди, щоб сказати «геть з нашої землі». Навіть у повній темряві ми бачимо правду і будемо битись, поки
we will fight until it darkens in our eyes. Warriors of light? Damn.
Ніхто на землі не зможе сказати, що ця репліка – пафос. 9-й день війни. У багатьох з нас прийнято на 9 днів згадувати тих, кого з нами вже, на жаль, немає. Вічна пам'ять кожному, хто загинув за Україну. На жаль, сьогодні є повне враження, що
the translation's so much better on Axios compared to Yahoo News. There's a reason why, and I think they also cut this short. They edited it. That edit right there, they cut it short. It was a lot longer. It was a lot more uncomfortable to wait. Moment of silence.
Є повне враження, що час пом'янути
Complete impression it is time to give a funeral repast.
Обіцянки безпеки, рішучість альянсів, цінності, які для декого, здається, мені померли. Сьогодні відбувся саміт НАТО. Слабкий саміт,
Weak summit, confused summit.
Саміт, на якому видно, що не всі вважають боротьбу за свободу для Європи метою номер 1.
Right.
Всі розвідки країн НАТО чудово знають плани ворога. Вони також підтвердили, що Росія хоче продовжувати наступ. Як може? 9 днів ми бачимо жорстку війну.
руйнують наші міста,
Yo.
обстрілюють наших людей,
True.
наших дітей, житлові квартали, церкви, школи, знищують все, що забезпечує нормальне життя, людське життя, і хочуть це продовжувати, знаючи, що нові удари і жертви неминучі, НАТО свідомо ухвалили рішення не закривати небо над Україною. Ми вважаємо, що країни НАТО самі створили наратив, що начебто закриття неба над Україною спровокує пряму агресію Росії проти НАТО. Це самогіпноз тих, хто
Self-hypnosis.
слабкий, невпевнений, внутрішньо. Хоча може володіти зброєю у рази сильнішою, ніж є у нас.
Wow.
Ви повинні були думати про людей, про людяність. А про що ви думали на тому засіданні? Усі люди, які загинуть від цього дня, загинуть також і через вас.
Yow.
Через вашу слабкість,
Wow.
через вашу роз'єднаність.
He's going in
Усе,
hard.
на що спромігся Альянс на сьогодні, це провести через систему
50
своїх
tons of
закупок
diesel fuel.
50 тонн диспалива для України. Мабуть, для того, щоб ми могли спалити Будапештський меморандум, щоб краще горіло. Але він
Whoa.
для нас вже згорів у вогні
Whoa.
російських військ.
Wow.
Хіба такого НАТО ми хотіли?
Вау.
Хіба такий альянс ви будували? Сьогодні керівництво альянсу дало зелене світло для подальшого бомбардування українських міст та сел, відмовившись зробити
Holy
безпольотну зону. Ви могли закрити небо, але я не знаю, кого ви можете захистити і чи здатні захистити ви свої країни, країни Альянсу. Від нас ви не зможете відкупитися літрами палива за літри нашої крові,
Leaders of our
пролитої
blood
за нашу
shed for common
спільну
Europe.
Європу,
Speaking
за
to
нашу
the
спільну
yeah,
свободу,
values.
за наше спільне майбутнє. Але
European
також я
values.
вдячний друзям, тим не менш, друзям нашої країни. У НАТО там багато країн наших друзів, наших партнерів, більшість потужних партнерів. Тим, хто допомагає нашій державі, незважаючи ні на що, ні на які рішення. З першого дня вторгнення, і я впевнений, до перемоги. І тому ми не відчуваємо себе наодинці. Ми продовжуємо боротись, ми захистимо нашу державу, ми звільнимо нашу землю завдяки нашим героям.
Oh.
Сьогодні нагородив орденами та медалями 76 українських героїв за особисту мужність і самовідданість дії заради нашої оборони. На жаль, з них 37 нагороджуються посмертно.
Dang.
Я присвоїв звання Героя України генерал-лейтенанту Павлюку
Lieutenant
Олександру
General
Олексійовичу, командуючому
Олексійович.
операції Об'єднаних Сил.
Commander.
Я присвоїв військове звання бригадного генерала, полковнику Швораку Володимиру Васильовичу, заступнику командуючого військ оперативного командування «Схід», сухопутних військ
Right.
Збройних сил України.
The guy's
Я
holding off.
присвоїв військове
The
звання
guy holding off the Eastern invasion is like managing a war front in like 4 or 5 different cities.
бригадного генерала юстиції, полковнику юстиції Мельнику Сергію Миколаївичу, начальнику військово-юридичного інституту
all people who could have
Національного
ran.
університету імені Ярослава Мудрого. Я присвоїв звання бригадного
Okay, and then
генерала.
this is like the military propaganda stuff. That was intense. That was crazy. I cannot believe how hard he went. I mean, there was one comment I saw that was like, he has to say this because he wants to still get support from NATO countries while like saying they're not helping, so that Russia has no like rhetorical leverage to say that NATO is aiding Ukraine if Ukraine's like blasting them in the media for not helping them. But at the same time, those were some pretty spicy takes. Pretty spicy takes. Yeah, I think that was like the big one. Ukraine has a larger population than Canada, 44 million to 38. Wow. Holy shit. They had 44 million? I remember someone mentioning that the population was a big factor. The last surviving prosecutor at the Nuremberg trials, Benjamin Ferencz, said he felt devastated when he learnt Putin's forces had blasted the massed grave of its 33,771 largely Jewish victims on Tuesday. He says Putin should be behind bars. Wow, the end of an era. as the new one begins. Feels bad, man. Feels bad, man. Is that gonna work? Feels bad, man. Ukrainian forces take control of Mykolaiv, seize Russian occupiers' equipment. This is 14 minutes ago. According to Mykolaiv Oblast Governor Vitaly Kim, there are casualties among civilians, but the number is yet to be determined. Mykolaiv is a regional capital in southern Ukraine. Oh. Novopskov, Russians open fire on civilians. There's also some footage of Sky News being under fire. I thought I had that queued up. What happened to it? What happened to that Sky News clip? Oh, there's also the authorities arresting everyone in Russia. That's always fun. This is what's going on. All people who start protesting are getting immediately brutally taken to police office. Even some who are just walking. Yeah, they do not fuck around. Oh my god. Yikes. Oh, there's text on the bottom I was missing. This girl was just staying, not protesting. Look what happened to her. These videos made a girl I know yesterday. For recording it, the police took her to police office too. People who were caught by the police for participating in the protest will be fired from official work, usually if they work for a state organization, expulsion from university, get a fine, or they can be put in jail. Like there's severe consequences, it sounds like. Sheesh. Because of the new official law of the dissemination of false information about the situation in Ukraine, Russians can be sent to prison up to 15 years. That's why, due to my and my family's safety, I'm stopping sharing what is going on in Ukraine. False info can be anything what official Russian media doesn't say. We are also not allowed to call it a war, but only a special military operation. Moreover, those Russians who help Ukrainians can go to jail too, but you all know what I think about it. Yikes. Scary. Okay, so this is some pretty intense footage coming up next, not for the faint of heart. Apparently, some journalists came under fire from Sky News.
The Ukrainian people are being attacked from the air, from artillery, from ground troops and tanks. The debris of this war litters every street. But the government has warned for days of Russian saboteurs who've infiltrated the country to bring terror. Death squads who are attacking civilians in their cars as they flee.
Yeah, fucked up.
They do exist, as we found out.
Oh,
that's a bullet.
That was a bullet. No, it wasn't a bullet. It wasn't.
yeah, we might have to skip this part.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
In checkpoint and a mistake, so we identify ourselves.
British journalists! Journalists!
Journalists!
Journalista!
Can anyone? You alright, Stu? Is everyone okay? You okay, Dom?
Yeah, I'm okay. Journalists!
Somehow we have to get out of this, but the rounds keep coming. It's a professional ambush. The bullets just don't miss.
Oh my god. Oh, we're gonna skip a little.
Stuck in the car.
Fuck.
He runs for it in a hail of bullets.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Bro just hightails it.
Okay, guys. Stuart.
They got big blue
Stuart, I'm rolling.
vests on too. Holy cow.
The 5 of us have made it out of the car, down the embankment.
All
We
5.
just can't believe we're alive.
Oh my goodness. Oh my god.
Let's go through there, behind that wall. Go on then.
We run into a warehouse unit looking for cover.
Go.
Sheesh. Oh my goodness.
Three caretakers beckon us inside.
Спасибо.
And we're like, is that Iran? And they didn't see that.
Producer Martin Val starts coordinating a rescue plan with Sky staff. We know any rescue will take hours. We're stuck, fighting outside. We've no idea what's going on.
Yikes.
We've got ourselves into a garage. Somehow we found our way in. There's 3 guys working here, and they've said we can stay, but there's a lot of firing going on outside. We don't know why. It appears to be a battle with mortars and shooting.
After a mammoth logistical effort, we were rescued by the local police. We were lucky. Thousands of Ukrainians are not. And every day, this war gets worse here. Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Kiev.
Yeah, what a crazy report. We've got some more stuff that is just happening now. People assembling in front of the Army High Command in Minsk, chanting "Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes." Thousands of Ukrainians protest in the city of Kherson this morning after it was captured by Russian forces a few days ago. Wow.
The number of our military personnel deployed in Poland to now more than 10,000. As President Biden has said, we will defend every inch of NATO territory.
Another emergency.
I think that was Blinken of America.
Russia for the invasion. This time, the Security Council is planning to discuss the growing humanitarian crisis and the assault on Europe's largest nuclear power plant. The U.S. ambassador to the UN said that the world had narrowly averted a nuclear disaster.
True.
Our correspondent in New York, Jessica Lemagurier, has more.
She's going to go to the washroom.
Russia faced criticism yet again here at the United Nations on Friday. The US and its allies reprimanded Russia over its shelling and seizure of Europe's biggest nuclear power plant, with the British ambassador telling Moscow not to let such an attack happen again. Other council members expressed shock and grave concern. They also said that the attack was illegal, a violation of international law and of the Geneva Convention, but not one of them explicitly accused Russia of committing a war crime. The world narrowly averted a nuclear catastrophe last night, the US Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield told the Council, and she said that the attack was incredibly reckless and dangerous. International Atomic Energy Agency Chief Rafael Grossi briefed the Council from an airplane, and he said that although from a technical point of view the operation of the plant continues normally, there's no normalcy about this situation, and he offered to travel to Ukraine to assess the situation on that nuclear plant. Ukraine's ambassador appeared frustrated and said that it's not only Ukraine under Russian attack, it's Europe, it's the entire world, it's humanity. He called for a no-fly zone over Ukraine to protect the civilian population, but Western powers have really made it clear that that's not an option right now because it could bring them into direct conflict with Russia. Russia's UN envoy Vasily Nebenzia argued that everyone else was lying about what happened at the nuclear plant and that actually it was sabotaged by Ukrainian radicals. He reassured everyone that it's now under Russian military control and said that Ukraine was being hysterical. France and Mexico are still working on a UN resolution that will address the humanitarian impact of Russia's invasion. They hope that that will be put to a vote here in the Security Council next week.
And that's Jessica Lemegerier, our correspondent, reporting from the headquarters of the UN in New York. Well, it's impossible to say what's going on in the mind of Vladimir Putin, but there is a small group of advisors in his inner circle. Yinka Oyatade has a look at who the men are and the power to influence the Russian president.
These 6 men, part of Vladimir Putin's inner circle, are perhaps the only ones capable of influencing the Russian president. One of the people in Putin's ear is longtime confidant Sergei Shoigu, Russia's Minister of Defense. The 66-year-old lacks military experience, but he was credited with the seizure of Crimea in 2014 and has been linked to a number of nerve agent poisonings. Someone with actual military experience is Valery Gerasimov, Russia's armed forces chief of staff. He's also loyal to Putin.
Putin is the mafia boss, and everybody's afraid of him. Everybody is subservient. Nobody wants to take an independent
gas prices up 20 cents.
position.
Yeah, there's a photo showing gas prices just in my local area on the Montreal subreddit.
On whether he supported the decision to recognize 2 Kremlin-backed separatist regions in Ukraine as independent states.
Поддержу или поддерживаю? Говорите прямо, Сергей.
Поддерживаю предложение.
Так и скажите,
Да,
да или
говорю,
нет. Хорошо, пожалуйста, садитесь. Спасибо.
Nikolai Patrushev, secretary of the Security Council, is considered the man with the most influence on the Russian president. Patrushev is pro-war and the least likely to stop Putin. Arkady Rotenberg could be the voice of reason. The billionaire is Putin's childhood friend. He's been hit with sanctions from the West, but ties between him and Putin have been unraveling. This is the Russian president isolated himself in recent years.
He has tried to use distance both as a projection of power, but also create some health or even safety measures. Putin is somebody who
got on his knees.
How these kind of assassination attempts take place. He's been involved in some of them.
This is why Putin has Viktor Solotov by his side. He runs Russia's National Guard, a force of 3,000 men whose aim is to protect Vladimir Putin at all costs.
Here in France, President Emmanuel Macron has released his first campaign video. He declared his candidacy right before the deadline and has canceled campaign events and rallies because of what's happening in Ukraine. He's the front runner in April's race. Polls show his biggest challenger is far-right candidate Marine Le Pen. For some analysis on how the race is shaping up, let's hear from Paul Smith, head of French Studies at the University of Nottingham.
I think there are 2 questions there. The major war is, of course, a matter of enormous concern for all of us. But you know, the timetable is fixed. It's there. I see no appetite amongst the candidates to push it back, to postpone the election. It would be very difficult to do that. It would certainly require Parliament, an act of Parliament.
The way that Macron is like handling this is pretty important.
But also, if you
really appreciate your streams as someone who is having a hard time understanding everything, that is super helpful. Oh, thanks, real life Ryan. Tell a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to bring people in. And you know, give me a subscribe. All those things help. I'm hoping to sort of bring a saner voice to the whole online politics space, although I think it's a fool's errand at the same time. But you know, like we're all gonna We're all gonna learn and grow together.
Hold their public meetings, because this is where the problem for the president candidate will arise in this situation. But I think that the appetite at the moment is not. It doesn't seem to me amongst the candidates or from the president to be going towards the idea of pushing this process back. Well, let's not forget France is chairing the European Union. So, there's this.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in what Blinken had to say.
Of invasion, in terms of what this tells us about Russia or its capabilities. I think we'll have time to fully assess that. What we do know, what it does tell us, is how extraordinary
You have no friends. This is why we form parasocial relationships online, and then you convert those online friendships into real friendships by going out to cool things like poetry slams or improv comedy or stand-up theater, whatever. Stand-up.
People are, their will, their determination, their absolute commitment to defend their country, to defend their freedom, to defend their future. That's the story of the past week, and it's an incredibly powerful one. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, thoughts and prayers. Got it.
That was Secretary of State Blinken speaking as he continues his diplomatic tour, saying that he wants to maintain unity among Western allies. Just getting a report that he just landed in Poland as the refugee crisis there continues to worsen. We'll have more on the invasion of Ukraine right after this.
Okay, well, they set up the Irish MP, Richard Boyd Barrett, calling out the double standards on Ukraine and Palestine. If you've never heard this guy talk, he is quite the orator. So I'm very interested on his take here.
Treating the Arab population as a whole, the Palestinian population as a whole, as an inferior race. I mean, it doesn't get stronger than this. And yet you want to be careful about your language. You're happy to correctly use the most strong and robust language to describe the crimes against humanity of Vladimir Putin, but you will not use the same strength of language when it comes to describing Israel's treatment of the Palestinians, when it is now being documented and detailed by two of the most respected human rights organizations in the world, and indeed
Amnesty International, and I can't remember the other one, but I definitely did like a deep dive on the Palestinian report from Amnesty International, and it was shocking. It was honestly genuinely shocking. I might pull it up after just to touch on it real quick.
Has been alleged by dozens and dozens of non-governmental organizations, and to be honest, anybody who looks honestly at the decades of brutal, inhumane persecution of the Palestinians, successive assaults on Gaza, the annexation of their land and territory, the systematic application of apartheid rules, you don't want to even use the word apartheid. Never mind sanctions. 5 days sanctions against Putin and his thugs, 70 years of oppression by the Palestinians, and it wouldn't be, what was the word you used? It wouldn't be helpful to impose sanctions. Amnesty International are calling for Israel to be referred to the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. Will you support it? They are calling for targeted sanctions against Israeli officials who are perpetuating the system of apartheid. Just exactly the same types of sanctions you've just initiated against Vladimir Putin. Will you support it? And I think the answer is clearly you're not going to.
Yikes.
And then we ask the question, why?
He's spicy.
Why? With such strength of feeling, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil and Green TD stood up one after the other, saying it was intolerable. The thuggery and the warmongering and the brutality of Putin, you wouldn't stand for it. Urgent action had to be taken. But we've got to be much more careful with the Palestinians.
Yeah, he's spicy. He's spicy boy. Not the take you came here for. but maybe the take you leave with. Dang.
Concurrently or consecutively during the months of February and March of this year. With that, we'll take questions. Lita.
John, can you give us a little bit more detail on the hotline, deconfliction line, whatever you want to call it, with Russia? Do you know if it has been used at all? Was it used specifically during the attack on the nuclear facility, when one might think there might be some cause for concern? And would it be General Walters who would be sort of in charge or on the other end of the phone? Can you give us a sense of what this link is? And then just secondly...
You want the phone number too?
Yeah, if you could actually put the phone here, it would be good. And then
jokes.
Just
jokes.
Anything new on Odessa?
On the deconfliction line, I don't have any information about whether it's been used. It's only been in place for a couple of days. I think it's early this week. It is basically a phone line, a phone connection to the Russian Ministry of Defense. It is being administered out of European Command headquarters, and as I understand it, it's basically staffed by staff level officers there at European Command. I have no expectation that, unless he really desires, that General Walters would be the one managing that. It's not at that level. It's at a lower operational level, and it's being administered as a bilateral U.S. to Russia deconfliction channel. So that's why it's being handled out of U.S. European Command headquarters and not General Walters under his NATO hat. But again, I refer you to EUCOM to talk specifically about whether and how it's been put in place. We know it works because we did establish it and set it up with the Russians, and when we tested it, they did pick up the other end and acknowledged that they got the call. So we know it works. We think again that this is, as we've done before, like in Syria. We think it's valuable to have a direct communication vehicle at that level, at an operational level, to reduce the risks of miscalculation and to be able to communicate in real time if need be, particularly because now the airspace over Ukraine is contested by both Russian and Ukrainian aircraft. So that contested airspace now buttresses right up against NATO. So, smart thing to do, and we're glad it's in place. We're glad that the Russians have acknowledged that they will use it. On Odessa, I don't have an update for you. We haven't seen, and again, I have to caveat this by making clear our visibility and our detailed knowledge of things that are going on the ground has limits. But as of this morning, we hadn't seen any significant naval activity in the Black Sea that would lead us to believe that an assault on Odessa is imminent. That doesn't mean that won't change over coming hours. It very well could. As you've seen for yourselves, the Russian ground forces coming out of Crimea, arcing off to the northwest through Kherson, are now beginning an assault on a town called Mykolaiv. That town is not far from Odessa, just up the coast, a little bit to the northeast of Odessa. So we don't know exactly what to make of that. We can't assert for sure that the Russians are going to use a land route to assault Odessa, or even if they're going to move on Odessa. We're kind of watching this day by day as you guys are.
Just a quick follow-up on that. So since this is a bilateral sort of U.S.-Russia line, would then an instance like the nuclear plant not be an appropriate use of the line?
It very well could be.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Following up on that question, the nuclear line, are you saying that it was...
It's not a nuclear line.
Excuse me,
It's
the
not a nuclear
deconfliction
line.
line, are you saying it wasn't...
I'm not saying it wasn't used. I don't have anything for you on its physical use in the last couple of days.
What is the most senior U.S. defense official who has spoken to their Russian counterpart since this invasion has occurred?
Good question. Very good question.
No leaders here at the Pentagon have. General Milley has not spoken to General Gerasimov since the invasion. Secretary Austin has not spoken to Minister Shoigu, his counterpart. since the invasion.
Therefore, not yours.
I'm not aware of any other senior leaders here at the Department of Defense. Now, I can't speak for NATO. That's a good question for the alliance, but I'm not aware of any senior U.S. military connections.
And just separately on the bridge that was blown up near that convoy, were U.S. weapons used to blow up that bridge, and what impact has it had on the convoy?
I do not know what specific munitions were used to thwart the convoy's advance. We do have reports that a bridge was blown up that we believe was in the path there. We also have indications that the Ukrainians have struck the convoy elsewhere and on their own on vehicles. But what munitions they're using, Jen, I just simply couldn't speak to that level of specificity. We do believe that the actions by the Ukrainians have in fact stalled that convoy and certainly slowed it down, stopped it in some places. But we also think that that it's also of a piece of Russian challenges that they've had just in terms of their own physical ground movement, sustainment, logistics. They're running out of fuel. We still believe that in some cases they're running out of food for their soldiers. So they've also been plagued by their own missteps and stumbles. Fadi.
Thank you, John. So I have a couple of questions. On the deconfliction mechanism, as you said, I mean, it's helpful, especially now with the NATO airspace as close to the Ukrainian airspace. So why was it bilateral between the U.S. and Russia, not between Russia and NATO?
I'm not going to speak for the alliance, Fadi, and it's not like we are a member of NATO. So certainly, if we can use that deconfliction line to assist with alliance communications, we'll absolutely do that. It's not so binary as that. All I'm trying to do is describe that it is set up bilaterally between the United States and Russia. But of course, look, part of the reason that we want to do this is because of NATO airspace, which buttresses up now against contested airspace. So, if I conveyed any idea that we would only use this to convey U.S. individual unilateral concerns, that is absolutely not the case.
I asked the question because a senior defense official has said before that there are ideas, including maybe a NATO-Russia channel. So was this, I mean, basically because Russia rejected such a channel and they insisted on it?
I don't have anything.
Okay, and on Zaporozhye,
Therefore, not yours.
What is your understanding of what happened actually yesterday, and how safe is the nuclear plant right now?
We don't have perfect knowledge of exactly how this attack on the nuclear power plant transpired. Clearly, there was.
Question, was Russia hoping NATO would intervene so that they could then just attack anywhere? Or were they banking on NATO not intervening so that they could take Ukraine without interference from NATO? More likely the latter than the former, just because if you look at force comparisons, force comparison, NATO versus Russia, the collective might of NATO is larger. This was the image. I think that that's casualties in the war. I think it was this one that was going around from the BBC. Military balance. So when we look at Russia v Ukraine, we can see like pretty overwhelming forces. And then when we look for, where are we? That's Ukraine. Is it this one? Oh, Quora. Just show me the image. That's France. Oh, geez. Sorry, I'm having a hard time finding it. I'll look for it in the background. But essentially, to answer your question, NATO has more military force. Its collective might is larger than Russia. So Russia's trying to do what it did in Crimea and essentially play an information war where there's always sort of this slow advance of territorial annexation, but it's never so fast that NATO can intervene. So as long as you maintain the violence within the borders of Ukraine, NATO, according to its own rules, can't do shit. And Russia is trying to sort of like shrug off the sanctions that it's like historically been like laboring under, and use like back channels and sort of like leaning on companies like Shell to still buy their oil and gas, because you need that oil and gas. Everybody, gas prices have gone up. Oil is a hot commodity, wouldn't you know it? Despite climate change. So, Russia probably doesn't want to intervene into a NATO countries. They want to like rebuild the former Soviet empire, and Ukraine is absolutely one of those like Eastern Bloc countries.
One clearly it was violent. Clearly ordnance was used. An attack was conducted on the power plant. In an effort by Russian forces to gain control of it. We cannot contest or refute reports that they are in fact in control of it. As for conditions there, again, our knowledge is imperfect.
And again, here is that plea from the nuclear facility. Absolute insane. New York Times. How like old it all is from the specific era. Okay, so yeah, that thing was under fire, and now it looks like Russia has taken over it.
But as we understand it, there's been no leakage of radioactive material. Now, what operational status it's in, we can't speak to. Our role here at the Department of Defense is to continue to assist the Department of Energy as they work through response efforts of their own, and as they work with allies and partners. Because we have experience running nuclear power plants in the Department of Defense, we're a part of that. We're a part of that effort, providing some advice and counsel to the Department of Energy. Let me just take a moment, if I might, though this is not your question, to state the obvious about the dangers here and how this underscores the recklessness with which the Russians have been perpetrating this unprovoked invasion and assault on Ukraine and their sovereignty. Attacking a nuclear power plant?
Yikes. The nuclear plant issue in Ukraine is urgent. A nuclear facility run by the same shift of 100 people without a break for 10 days in a row means their concentration levels are too low. They're only getting one meal a day. It is very dangerous, said the Chernobyl mayor. Shahish. Gadidov's. So yeah, that nuclear situation's bad.
Attacking a nuclear power plant is exceedingly dangerous, and could have visited a lot more damage and destruction to the people of Ukraine and to the and perhaps even to neighboring countries had this gone a different way. And we continue to call on Russia to stop the invasion, period, de-escalate, move their troops out. But certainly, short of that, to be more mindful of their obligations under international law, and certainly with respect to humanitarian concerns about, about perpetrating violence anywhere near a nuclear power plant, which are not designed to withstand combat. It's not their function. Peaceful nuclear power.
Obvious comment of the day.
I wanted to just get that out, Court.
Do you have any indications that that there's any disruptions to the power? I know one of the concerns is that if there's no cooling apparatus in the nuclear reactor, then that's like a real vulnerability. Do you have any? I know that it's hard to say operationally, but do you have any indications of that?
We don't, and we don't know. Again, we don't know what the status of the plant is right now. Again, I point you to Department of Energy to talk about that with more detail.
And then one more thing on deconfliction. I'm not clear. It is. I get it. It's between the U.S. and the Russian military. But is there? Will there be some scenario where other NATO ally aircraft or military equipment you could be deconflicting on their behalf? We haven't heard about any other nations setting up any kind of deconflictions, and others have been sending things forward to that area.
Well, I think it's entirely possible that should there be an alliance concern that we can convey to the Russians through that channel, we absolutely will. Remember, we are also a NATO ally.
Yeah. John, on the confliction line, in Syria, we know that Russians and American aircraft were crossing into their lines, and then, of course, they just were telling...
Say that part again? You know that Russian and...
Like, on Syrian airspace, Russian and American air assets were crossing into each other's line, and that's why the confliction line was used to say, hey, keep out of this area, we are coming here, or we are going to strike this, or we are here, we are there. But here, in this setting, in this theater, there are two separate airspaces, and why, like, how does the confliction line is going to be used? For what? What will they say, for example, on the line? Because we don't see
for deconfliction.
I don't think there's like a given script that's going to be used on any particular day or in any particular instance. I mean, this is you got contested airspace over Ukraine, which buttresses. Just let me finish. Which buttresses right up against countries, NATO countries, and their airspace. It makes eminent sense for us to be able to have some way.
What is Putin's goal in all this? In my own opinion, I don't know. It's really mystifying. I mean, of all the world leaders trying to understand Putin's one of the harder ones, just because it's so wrapped up in spycraft and like information warfare. Generally, to stay holding on to power, if that means whipping up a war that is popular at home, because that boosts his numbers, and regaining territory and access to the Black Sea to bolster his military. Let's say, force projection, then it's a win-win. And if he can do it by just being like the madman, just like calling the bluff, essentially, of NATO, or I think, as I described it before, like hacking or exploiting their legal structures, their sort of like their red lines, then at the end game, Putin gets more popular support at home. He regains strict control of like information within the country. He gets to crack down way harder, gets to regain territory that is like culturally important for Russians, and therefore like gets to build his legacy as like the Russian Empire has regained its homeland. There's a couple angles here. Yeah.
Communicating with the Russians to airspace.
Oops.
Operations in that contested airspace pose any kind of a threat, or even just pose a concern to the alliance or to the United States. We want to be able to have a way of speaking directly at an operational level with the Russian Ministry of Defense. So it makes a lot of sense to do this.
And also on Black Sea, we now see that Russians have almost taken 1/3 of the entire northern parts of the Black Sea, coast of the Black Sea. Is there a concern, or to what extent concerning is it for you that Russians take the entire coast of the northern Black Sea and just
it's a fair question.
Create a new geopolitical setting?
Apparently don't have your level of visibility on where the Russian ships are in the Black Sea. I'm not prepared to cede or to say with certainty that they have control over the international waters in the Black Sea. They have naval assets in the Black Sea. They're a Black Sea nation. They have naval assets in the Black Sea. They have already used some of those naval assets to conduct an amphibious assault from the Sea of Azov onto the coastline there.
We saw some satellite
Ukraine.
Saw some satellite images of that.
Said to Lita, I don't have any updates for you in the maritime environment. I can't assert for sure that they are planning to do yet another amphibious assault, whether it's towards Odessa or any other southern Ukrainian port. but we're watching it as best we can. Okay, Jim?
John, this is a little bit involved, but on February 18th, I asked, in Poland, I asked Secretary Austin if the national defense strategy would need to be rewritten as a result of the Russian threats at that time. He said no, and that the integrated deterrence concept that underlaid the idea of the NDS was already sort of in use. I'd like to think, given the Russian performance in Ukraine so far, that it sort of cements the idea of China being the pacing threat. Yet I'm seeing stories that the national defense strategy is being rewritten. Has it changed since February 18th?
What I would tell you, Jim, is that the national defense strategy is still being crafted. It's going to be heavily informed by the President's interim national security guidance. It's certainly being written in parallel with the national security strategy, which also hasn't been completed yet. And you're absolutely right. The Secretary was clear that it will reinforce his notion of an integrated deterrence, and it will certainly recognize that China remains the pacing challenge for the department. But it will also recognize other nation-state threats out there, and that includes Russia. And as we've been writing it as we've watched Russia over the last couple of months, build up this massive military force around Ukraine's borders. So it would be foolish for us to think that the crafting of it wasn't also informed by what we've been seeing Russia do. But is it being rewritten as a result of what we're seeing Russia do? I think that overstates it heavily. But it certainly will be informed by what we've been seeing over the past couple of months.
In Kyiv, a woman knocked down a Russian drone from a balcony with a jar of cucumbers. How did they expect to occupy this country? I don't care if that's true or not. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, someone else writes, Day 10, and Russia has failed to take Sumy, Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Mariupol, Zaporizhzhia, Mykolaiv, and Kyiv. When will Putin understand he has lost the war? Does he understand he doesn't have enough soldiers to waste to take all those cities? I mean, it's a pretty bad take, actually. I mean, he definitely does have the soldiers to waste to take those cities, and sieges usually take longer than 10 days. So yeah, I wouldn't count my eggs in the basket just yet.
Tara.
Thank you. Has the department seen any evidence that the invading Russian force is also reliant on the internet and communications inside Ukraine? There's been a lot of questions about why, there was an assumption early on that the internet would be brought down, that the infrastructure grid would be brought down.
Good question.
Why is it that all of this infrastructure has remained in place, and are these forces also reliant on that to communicate and to navigate?
I can't, I honestly can't speak to Russian plans here and their intentions with respect to the information environment. And as for their navigation skills, again, I don't, I'm not riding in the cab of these trucks. I don't know exactly what they're using to get from point A to point B. Clearly, they're not getting from point A to point B very fast right now, at least in the north. So I can't speak to that, Tara. But we have seen some internet outages. We have seen them try to impact the information and communication environment, not the least of which is striking, television towers and that kind of thing. Again, I don't want to speculate. I mean, they have found some value to keeping some public communications open for their own purposes, for their own decision-making processes. But that's just a speculation. I don't know.
We've got some interesting news in America about this. Ukraine President Zelenskyy requests more lethal aid during virtual meeting with U.S. senators. He had a meeting this morning with the full Senate. This is Fox News.
16 minutes after the hour, a working Saturday here in Washington, D.C. for the U.S. Senate. They've been invited to meet virtually this morning with Ukraine's president. That meeting coming as the Russian invasion of Ukraine enters its second week. Joining us now to lend her expertise is Dr. Rebecca Grant. She's a national security analyst as well as the president of IRIS Independent Research. Dr. Grant, I think the first thing that is so obvious to me is there anything that can happen in that meeting that might persuade this administration to do something different with respect to its policies right now in Ukraine in particular? I have to begin by saying that no-fly zone is something that I'm sure we'll hear a great deal about. Is there any way that this conversation might get the Biden administration to do something else other than what they have done thus far?
It's possible. Zelenskyy will get a very warm welcome. And while some senators, like Senator Murphy from Connecticut, have said there's no way on a no-fly zone, we see that Zelenskyy is very angry and very disappointed when NATO told him no. So I think these senators actually really do have the ear of Team Biden. And if they were to change their minds and become very supportive, whether on a no-fly zone or on other enhanced assistance, I think that their word really would carry a lot of weight. Plus, the Senate can't set up a no-fly zone, but there's several other steps that they can take to help Zelenskyy.
Now, I think everybody around the globe wants to see the Ukrainians get the help that they need, but I want to run some numbers by you because what everyone's going to be talking about probably is this dollar figure that you've heard tossed about, maybe a $10 billion aid package for Ukraine, maybe a $6 billion aid package. Some of the numbers I've seen, $350 million in February alone, a total of $3 billion.
It's worth noting, this is a big story that dropped from Business Insider. The former National Security Advisor, John Bolton, said that Putin was waiting for Trump to withdraw the United States from NATO in his second term. John Bolton said Putin was waiting for Trump to withdraw from NATO. He previously warned that Trump would have withdrawn from the alliance if he'd won a second term. Bolton also said Trump's main interest in Ukraine was trying to, quote, find Hillary Clinton's computer server. Bolton said on Friday that Putin was waiting for Trump to withdraw the U.S. from NATO if he had won a second term. Bolton made the remarks during a virtual event with the Washington Post on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, where Bolton mostly offered critiques of current President Joe Biden's foreign policy in the region. Of course. At the end of the event, he was asked by the Post Michael Duffy about how close Trump came to withdrawing the country from NATO. Quote, I thought he put his foot over it, but at least he didn't withdraw then, said Bolton, who wrote his memoir about Trump's consideration of withdrawing from NATO in 2018. Quote, in his second Trump term, I think he may well have withdrawn from NATO, and I think Putin was waiting for that, end quote. Yo. Oh my God, it's so bad. Oh, jeez. What a clusterfuck. Russia violating ceasefire in Ukraine. Yeah, we learned about that. Zelenskyy to U.S., please send more planes. Putin says that the sanctions introduced on his country are equivalent of a declaration of war. Cherchnobevka, Kherson region. Oh my God. Because it's artillery fire? Israeli Prime Minister Bennett traveled secretly to Moscow. Spycraft and back channels. Oh boy. Oh boy. That's curious. What's up with that? Kadyrov's henchmen gloating and boasting over the total destruction they brought to Borodyanka near Kyiv. What makes this even more impossible to comprehend is that this is nearly identical to what Russian soldiers did to their Grozny 20 years ago. I don't know about that, what that means. Is 12 too early for beer on a Saturday? If you're having it with something, with a lunch, it's actually perfectly lovely and good. On an empty stomach, I would say it's too early. Just because it's going to make you sleepy by like 4 o'clock, and then you won't be motivated to do anything for supper, and then it just all kind of falls apart from there. At least it would for me. So yeah, beer with lunch, A-okay. Speaking of which, I gotta figure out with lunch. What am I doing for lunch? I bet there's a fucking protest in Montreal.
Ahmad Sila, Allahu Akbar. Ya lal.
Cool, man. Really, really messed up those people's lives. Isn't that lovely? Okay. Yeah, no need for martial law at this point. Oh, geez, that's a yikes for me, dog.
And I have one follow-up on the deconfliction line. If it's going to be used for deconflicting airspace by NATO borders, could it also potentially be used for, say, coordinating a humanitarian corridor or people fleeing Ukraine, or is it just going to be military-to-military operations?
It's primarily a military-to-military channel, but that doesn't mean, as I've said before, that it can't be used for other purposes if need be. I mean, we'll have to see. It's only been a couple of days old, so we think it's the right thing to do. We've done this kind of thing before, and it makes a lot of sense, particularly when you're talking about that contested Ukrainian airspace. But
PayPal shuts down its services in Russia, citing Ukraine aggression. Reuters.
Could it find other purposes? Perhaps. I mean, we think it's the smart and the prudent thing to do. Barb.
A couple of follow-ups, but a question to other people's questions. But one question first: Can you bring us up to date on the thinking about whether to support any moves by East European allies and partners to send their MiG-29s into Ukraine to give the Ukrainians extra inventory?
You mean U.S. support to that?
Do you support the idea? Is the United States, as you know, this conversation has ebbed and flowed over the last several days of several East European allies and partners, including Slovakia, which wants to accelerate its F-16 purchases so they can send their MiG-29s. Is this idea something that the U.S. would be supportive of? And then I have two quick follow-ups.
I don't have a departmental position on this proposal, Barb. These are considerations that sovereign nation states have to make in their own and through their own processes. What I can just tell you is what we do support and what we are doing is looking for ways to continue to get security assistance into the hands of the Ukrainian armed forces, and we're doing that to a fairly well, and we're accelerating and expediting even the most recent drawdown package that the president approved.
And let me try one more time on deconfliction because, the United States is not entering Ukraine airspace.
Oh yes, we are definitely watching this. Putin wants Eastern Europe, Ukraine just proves that the Americans will not stop him. Yeah, neither will. I was turned into Paradigm Stream last night. Yeah, how was it? And we got a recommended video. This is what they really think from March 2022. So this just dropped and it's almost at 90K. All right, everybody. You ready? Are you really ready for
Ukraine?
I don't know if you are
Ukraine
ready for Ukraine.
has been all over the news for the last couple of weeks, and rightly so. The people.
I was lit. It was great, but I was lit. Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. Yeah, he seems like a chill dude.
People are stuck under an unjust war, which is shrouded with geopolitics, economical factors. And God knows what else, to be fair. And the media is exposing its hypocrisies in droves. Have a look at Jeremy Vine.
There's rumours of a thermobaric bomb, which is a sort of vacuum bomb, which, to be fair, the US has used before in
I think we watched footage of that.
Afghanistan, but the idea of it being used in Europe is stomach churning.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Oh, is this going to be like a super clip of all the racism in the media?
And why is your stomach not churning when it comes to Afghanistan?
Yeah. There's like a whole like extra like subtext narrative. Yeah, it's fair. I don't know if I'll watch this whole thing. This might be a bit too woke for me.
Welcome, guys, and welcome to another episode of Smile to Jannah.
To be fair, the US has used before in Afghanistan, but the idea of it being used in Europe.
I mean, just to be super fucking clear, the war in Afghanistan was like incredibly illegal, and especially the war in Iraq. Like these were illegal wars that were waged. You know, and this is where we get terms like shock and awe. Like there's absolutely a double standard there. Yeah, for sure.
Is stomach churning.
I don't understand. Why is your stomach not churning when it comes?
Oh, look at this editing.
Comes to Afghanistan. Is it because you're told that extremists were there? But extremists are there also in Ukraine. As we know from the news, there's a lot of neo-Nazis there. But
there's not a lot of neo-Nazis there. There's a small minority of the military corps that has a legit neo-Nazi group, but it's pretty marginal.
You'll say,
yeah, but in Afghanistan.
And then you'll pause. Because are you trying to insinuate? Are you trying to...
Here's the key problem with this argument. And he's correct, like morally or whatever, but this is why he's like not correct, like I guess geopolitically. Afghanistan does not have the level of political support of political cohesion as a national unity, and this is probably because Britain made up the fucking country, and like the European vassals like made up Afghanistan. And so they don't have the same level of political unity that, let's say, maybe Ukraine is demonstrating. And that might be why they were unable to sort of like play the high level international politics to their favor, and basically just got rolled by pretty much every empire that wants to go waste its army there. Afghanistan is famously known as the graveyard of empires. And part of it is because it's like this mountainous region that is full of disparate like communities. And yeah, so I think there's like that angle that I hope he addresses, because it seems pretty clear to me that like there's the racist element, which he's, you know, well justified to point out because there's a huge double standard, but also the like there's a very real geopolitical like skill set that might be lacking here in Afghanistan's favor.
Promulgate. Are you trying to concoct an answer that's gonna insinuate and promulgate that everybody in Afghanistan is an extremist, which is of course preposterous, because you're not accepting the same in Ukraine? Is it because you don't look or speak like the Afghans? Well, that would be a very odd criteria to employ just so you can feel empathy for somebody that's getting blown to bits.
See, this is what I mean by a bit too woke, just like leaning real hard into like the easy W's.
I mean, that would be inconsistent with animal rights. That will be inconsistent with like 3/4 of the globe, frankly. And if you insist with this sort of stringent, racist, this skewed...
Isn't. Let's find another
Because technically speaking, there's no Muslim country that's following Sharia properly. So this notion...
Oh, wait, that got really, really funny.
It's good for the greatest number. Yes, this is pretty much the creed of liberalism, based upon who's in charge and who's leading the educational narrative. But when it comes to Islam, this is objective. Yes, you can get angry and wave your finger as much as you want, but Islam is objective. It's unapologetic.
Wait, did he just say Islam is objective? That doesn't make any sense at all. Isn't Islam like literally split between Sunni and Shia? It's like quite literally almost at the very early days of Islam, a major rift in You don't like this guy? I mean, he's doing the YouTuber circuit. I don't mind. I think he's doing his thing.
And
He's speaking to his people. He doesn't have the best takes though.
It stays the same and it works. That's the
Islam doesn't. I mean, Islam is not a legal system, my guy. Which female Muslim scholars helped write the Quran? Like, it's not the best system to build a legal structure on top of.
Islam. It works. And of course, you cannot use any quote unquote Islamic country and pass a judgment against an Islamic ruling, because technically speaking, there's no Muslim country that's following Sharia properly. So this
properly, the word properly is doing a lot of lifting in that. A lot of lifting. What about the Saudis? Is the Saudi kingdom not an Islamic caliphate? Is this somehow not somehow excused in some way just because they're following a form of Islam that's only existed for a couple hundred, little while.
Notion that we're seeing by politicians, this isn't the Middle East.
But this isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, that has seen conflict raging for decades. This is
civilized, doing a lot of lifting there. Yeah, this is pretty racist. Like, this is an easy clap for this YouTube creator, right? Like a bunch of British and American newscasters just like saying dumb shit.
This is a relatively civilized, relatively European. I have to choose those words carefully.
Yeah, well, just
to choose those words carefully. Okay, we're moving on. This is women take up arms in Kyiv. Sky News. Thanks for that.
Welcome
source.
to hell, the sign says. At the entrance to the capital on the outskirts of the city, they're hunkering down and preparing to fight with all their might. But they're taking every precaution, and they've asked us to keep the location here secret and protect their identities. What do you have to do, do you think?
Shoot. Just shoot.
Just shoot. Shoot.
And protect my home.
Wow.
That's all. It's easy.
Easy.
All around the city, they are building defences. They've seen the pummeling of other cities, and with a 40-mile convoy of Russian military hardware sitting on the edge of the capital, they believe they're next. There are several warnings of mines ahead. The streets are scattered with scrap metal spikes and tyres.
Wow.
And huge metal anti-tank hedgehogs. Anything to slow the advance of the Russian troops.
Spare Molotovs.
There's frenetic activity inside the dozens of civil defence stations, where every room is piled high with donations. There's a water supplies, food?
Yes.
Water. Water, food, sleeping mats.
Yes.
Yeah. Soldiers and civilians are working in unison. These are the ones who've opted to stay behind whatever happens. These people ran businesses, had careers just over a week ago. Their lives now put on hold and almost certainly changed forever. But with time running out, we were told over and over again how much they needed tougher international action.
Nobody knows what Putin can do today or even tomorrow. And we need actions right now, not next week or next month. It will not work. So we need actions yesterday.
This is what they're preparing to take on: Russian military hardware and soldiers, all edging ever closer to the capital. These pictures were released by the Russian Defense Ministry, purporting to show their troops entering the Kiev region. The videos come after US defense officials claimed, without providing any evidence, that they believe the convoy had stalled and was having logistical issues. The capital civilians believe it's only a matter of time, but insist they're ready.
I can't explain you what the feelings of our Ukrainians in here is, because everyone has relatives, has their loved ones who are under fire right now, or who was wounded right now, or who was killed right now. It's impossible to explain to people who don't live in such of despair. But this despair, it's not despair. Oh, we are surrendered. No, it's despair. We will win. We will go. We will fight you back to hell, where your place is.
Many of these people hadn't picked up a weapon over a week ago and now barely flinch at the sounds of war.
9 days ago, I was teacher about the makeup, and
makeup.
I worked with students and showed them how to make the makeup, and everything was very peaceful.
Does that worry you hearing sounds like that? Are you scared?
Already, it's normal for me already.
Wow.
It's normal life. Your life has changed so much.
Yeah, it's just like no fear. I don't feel anything inside.
Girl boss. Girl boss, get it.
She's a graduate in biochemistry and is still studying her master's.
Jesus.
No purpose for this. So why do they do this? I want to fight also because this is my country, this is my home, my thoughts, my family, all of my, I don't know, pressures. No, everything is here, and I would like to be this like that way it was before.
Wow.
Taking Ukraine's capital remains the Russian prize, and the people here know that. Alex Crawford, Sky News, Kiev.
That was a really good report. Sky News is bringing it. Holy cow. Okay, let's see here. This is some intense footage. Czech journalist car shot at by Russians, reversing to safety, then Ukrainian BTR engages over their heads. Oh, okay.
Назад, Войtek, назад. Давай, Войtek, назад. Назад, Войtek, назад.
Oh my god. That's in reverse? Oh my god.
Назад. Войtek, назад, еще. Едем назад. Молодец, Войtek, давай.
Look how fast he's driving in reverse.
Назад, Войtek, назад. Еще, Войtek, еще. Ребята, нам БТР. Еще. За нами прямо БТР. Ну едь, ну что? Ну нет, я до него просто. А? Я его наберу. Назад, еще.
Ой.
Еще. Назад, Войtek, назад. Еще. Попали под обстрел. Попали под обстрел. Сильный обстрел. Попали под обстрел. Очень сильный.
Hasn't even had a chance to turn around.
В Калиновке выехали на Макаров. Сильный обстрел. В Макарове уже с Макарова подъезжают диверсионные группы. Еще будет. С Макарова диверсионные группы идут уже.
Yo. Finally gets to turn around. Wow. Go. Yo, that was next level intense. Yeah, I don't know how you do that. I can't. If I ever try to reverse a car, like I can't go over like 30 clicks. Like that's crazy. It's like pure adrenaline, like driving you. Over 66,000 Ukrainian men have returned from abroad to fight, says the defense minister. So there's like quite a bit coming. Ukrainian army directing the artillery fire towards a Russian convoy. This was a...
Принял плюс. Я работаю.
Oh, this started at the wrong spot. So there's the convoy. And I think that chevron is an aim assist.
Принял плюс. Я работаю. Огонь по готовности по завершенню доповідь. Прийом.
Першому. 4 снаряди швидким вогонь.
Уменьши прицел уменьши.
Oh.
Молодец.
Actually getting footage. Yo, just some of this stuff that's been coming out is just over the top. Downed Russian helicopter in Bashtansky. Melitopol met the occupiers. wow, there's quite a few people there. Part 2. So yeah, massive like civil disobedience. Zhytomyr after the Russian airstrike. March 1st. That was like 4 days ago. Holy shit. How do you even survive? City hospital was affected. Yo. Houses destroyed. The music's so eerie. Did they have to put the eerie music under it? Fuck. Oh, that was an Audi. Yeah, real war vibes. Funnels from falling rockets can be seen. Yo. Three grocery stores damaged. Closed with plywood. Okay, this. Oh god, this music is. Sorry, the music's fucking ridiculous. Jesus Christ. Oh, brutal. Number of people wishing to join the territorial defense units in Zaporizhzhia.
Возле цирка куча желающих получить оружие.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Просто такой толпы давно не видел.
Militable are rebelling.
Домой! Домой! Домой! На кого ты, пидор, пулемет поставил?
Yeah, this is like a fuller. Here are some locals under that bridge. Not the best picture, but you get the gist. Elon Musk refuses blocking Russian news sources, says he's a free speech absolutist. Unless he was held at gunpoint. Starlink has been told by some governments, not Ukraine, to block Russian news sources. We will not do so unless at gunpoint. Sorry to be a free speech absolutist. That's his red line. Erdogan will tell Putin to stop Ukraine war during call on Sunday. Spokesman. So Turkey is going to lean on Russia to put an end to it. This went viral. I'm not entirely sure what it is. A Chinese student in Ukraine has a message to his government and people back home. Good night. I'm Zhixian. I'm Chinese, Beijing. This passport has been issued by embassy in Macedonia. The bombardment was just stopped. I'm now in Odessa. The light is on. Not like you were told that we are afraid of light and hiding as rats in basement. I really can't understand what you guys are thinking. Why you feel good with Putin's invasion? Here are lots of Chinese people in Odessa, in Ukraine, and Chinese embassy as well in Kyiv. Lots of Chinese people there. The Russian army is defending? Do me a favor. What kind of defense was taking place in others' capital city? Putin now cannot represent Russian people. I have both Russian and Ukrainian co-workers. Russian people, why do you support Putin more than Russian people? What the hell is this war? Some misinformation said that US government bought me to do this. Lol. I'm fucking dying. Do I care money? I have donated to Ukraine army today. They are protecting my life. Whatever nationality am I, first of all, I'm a human. I respect life. Humans have rights to leave. We are not scared. We just got angry. For the missile suddenly ravaged our normal life. Right beside my office. Whatever you support, I hope you could take the side of life. Ordinary people don't want war. Oh man, he's a pro-lifer, everybody. Those defensive soldiers, they're my co-workers. They are programmers. They are my lawyers or teachers. Now they have to protect their mothers, children. They're protecting these families. They're even not for soil. They're just protecting their own apartments, which they bought with their own money or heritage from grandfather. Why destroyed by bombs? Just for it. Nothing about the NATO. Ordinary people just want this simple, peaceful life. We are in the battle zone. Just leave us alone. Wow, what a plea. That's quite the perspective. How much do you think it's going to cost him in social credit? 5,000 demerit points? 10,000 demerit points? Good luck using the train. Sheesh. 28 minutes ago. That's the last piece, and the assaults on the Ukrainian cities of Mariupol and Volnovakha has been resumed, says Russia's military, officially ending a brief ceasefire to allow humanitarian evacuations. Which, the very next one is Russia violating ceasefire. Jesus Christ. Okay. I think that was a good stream. It's 12:30. I think I'm gonna end it here. Give a like, give a follow, subscribe on YouTube. Check out my Twitter if you want to get news when I'm canceling a stream or setting one up. Usually go live there. I got a poetry slam coming up in a few weeks. So if you're in Montreal, check out the Throw Poetry Collective. And otherwise I'll see you tomorrow morning. We'll be covering the Ukraine stuff again just because it's obviously a very hot topic. I'm going to get myself some lunch, and you all have a lovely day, everyone. I'll see you later, and, have a lovely day. Bye. See ya. Au revoir.